Chapter 10:16. Just then an announcement came from outside. Miss Mu from Dragon Teeth Mountain is here. Chu Luiyue looked up and saw that Mu Hongyu had arrived at the door of the hall. Invite her in. Mu Hongyu followed the palace servants into the hall. When she saw Chu Luiyue, an excited smile appeared on her pretty face, and her almond-shaped eyes lit up. Lu, she had just spat out a word when she saw Xuanhuan next to her. Only then did she remember that she was in the imperial palace. She hurriedly stopped talking and curtsied. Mu Hongyu greets your majesty and your majesty. Chu Luiyue waved at her. Hongyu, this is my bedroom. You don't have to stand on ceremony. Come have a seat. Mu Hongyu looked at Xuanhuan nervously. After all, Xuanhuan had been in a high position for many years. Even though he was wearing ordinary clothes, he still had the aura of an emperor that could not be ignored. Although Mu Hongyu was lively, she knew what to do and what not to do in an occasion. Lu Yu could be polite, but she could not be rude. Xuanhuan laughed. Mu Hongyu, right? I've heard a lot about you from you. Don't be restrained here. I have something to do, so I won't stay here and disturb you. You can chat. Then he got up and was about to leave. Chu Luiyue smiled. Imperial Father, you should stay here for now. What we're going to talk about next has something to do with you. Oh. Xuanhuan was a little surprised. Seeing that Chu Luiyue did not seem to be joking, he sat down again. Mu Hongyu saw that Xuanhuan was so amiable, and her nervousness eased a lot. Hongyu has a faint yuan body. It's much harder for her to become a martial artist at the 7th level than ordinary cultivators. Therefore this time I plan to bring Hongyu to the Red Moon Desert again and ask a few seniors I know to give me some pointers. Mu Hongyu and Chu Luiyue were very close. Moreover, the virtual yuan body had not appeared for 1,000 years. It would be a pity if it was wasted. That was why Chu Luiyue was determined to help him to the end. Red Moon Desert? Senior? Xuanhuan was at a loss. Wasn't that place full of danger? If ordinary people went there, they would have a 9 out of 10 chance of survival. Why was you rushing there? Furthermore, he even said that he was acquainted with an elder? Chu Luiyue smiled and nodded. Yes. Previously, it was all thanks to their help that we were able to successfully leave the Red Moon Desert. Out of all the people that Chu Luiyue knew, the few of them were the strongest ones. Other than them, she really couldn't think of anyone else she could ask for help. Moreover, it just so happened that they had sent Xuexue to deliver the news, so it would be good to go and take a look. This time Hongyu and I are not sure when we will return. Therefore, there are many things in the Tianling dynasty that I need you to take care of. Of course, Xuanhuan would not object. Don't worry. With me around you can do whatever you want. Chu Luiyue looked a little apologetic. I wanted to let you have some leisure time, but I didn't expect. In the end, I still have to trouble you. What's so troublesome about that? Xuanhuan looked at her disapprovingly. Moreover, you are my daughter. If I don't help you, who else can I help? Don't worry. Now that I have recovered, nothing will happen to me. Chu Luiyue felt a warmth in her heart. In fact, she came back this time to let her father have a good rest and make up for what he had done before. However, she didn't expect so many things to happen after that. She joked. If I had known, I wouldn't have agreed to your and Taizu's proposal to ascend the throne that day. In the end, you are still the one who is busy with these things. Xuanhuan laughed. Anyway, this position will be yours sooner or later. It's better to be early than late. The Tianling royal family has no descendants in this lifetime. In addition, Xuanhuan had attacked many people. The royal family's descendants were either dead or disabled, or they were still young. Among them, the only one who could shoulder the burden was Chu Luiyue. When do you plan to go? Xuanhuan asked. Chu Luiyue and Mu Hongyu looked at each other. Today. The sun was scorching in the Red Moon Desert. Yellow sand covered the sky as far as the eye could see. The heat waves were rolling and even the air was distorted. A snow-white figure suddenly appeared in the sky above the desert. Following closely behind was a red-tailed phoenix with its wings spread out. Chu Luiyue and Mu Hongyu stood on Dumpling's back, their clothes fluttering in the wind. We'll be there soon, Chu Luiyue said. Mu Hongyu nodded, but her eyes fell on Xuexue in front of her from time to time. She seemed to be distracted. This figure. Why does it look so familiar? Hongyao, what are you thinking about? Chu Luiyue had long noticed that Mu Hongyu's state was a little strange. Along the way, she seemed to be a little absent-minded. Nothing, I just feel that this white lion is quite familiar. Mu Hongyu murmured in a low voice. When she saw Xuexue rushing towards the desert below, a light suddenly flashed in her mind. Right. This white lion was very similar to the divine beast they had seen in the mystic forest. Shueshua? This is Rongxiu's magical beast. Chu Luiyue explained. When they were in the palace, Rongxiu had summoned Shueshua out. Many people had seen it, so there was no need to deliberately hide it. What? You said it is the divine beast of His Highness Prince Li? Mu Hongyu was shocked. The news of Rongxiu having a divine beast was still a hot topic in the entire West Hill some time ago. Although she didn't pay attention to it deliberately, she had heard about it. She didn't expect it to be. Then, if this was really the one they saw previously, didn't that mean that Rongxiu was actually here at that time? What's wrong? Chu Luiyue saw that her reaction was a little strange and asked. Mu Hongyu hesitated for a moment and was about to speak when she suddenly heard a rustling sound from the desert below. The two of them looked down together. Yellow sand rolled on several undulating sand dunes, creating a huge commotion. Chu Luiyue immediately said, "Seniors, it's me." An androgynous snort seemed to come from afar. "Lass, you still know to come back?" This was Lan Zhao's voice. Although it sounded angry, there was no anger. Instead, there was a trace of joy that he was trying his best to restrain. "Hurry up and come down." Chu Luiyue couldn't help but laugh. She didn't know why, but when she heard this voice again, she actually felt very close. "Hongyu, let's go down." She gently patted Dumpling's head and then jumped. Sigh. Before Mu Hongyu could ask clearly, she saw that she had gone down and could only follow closely behind. The moment Chu Luiyue landed, the yellow sand under her feet moved quickly and sent her forward. It wasn't until he saw the sparkling sapphire-like lake that he finally stopped. Chu Luiyue had just stood still when she heard Diwu Zhang's surprised voice. Lass, you broke through to become a stage 7 warrior?" After everyone learned that Chu Luiyue had recovered the Tianjing Yuan meridian, they were either shocked, envious, or in disbelief. In short, there were all kinds of emotions. Only Dugu Mabao did not have such feelings. There was a slight disdain and a full sense of matter-of-fact. It seemed that Chu Luiyue's recovery of the Tianjing Yuan meridian was normal and barely acceptable. Mu Hongyu secretly stuck her tongue out at Chu Luiyue. Although they didn't see him, just hearing his words was enough to shock them. The Tianjing Yuan meridian was such a rare talent. In the entire Tianling dynasty, there had only been 2 people with it in the past 1,000 years. Countless people in the world were envious of it. And when it came to this senior, it was actually just a little bit. Mu Hongyu now vaguely understood why Chu Luiyue said that the seniors here might be able to help her with the faint Yuan body. Chu Luiyue did not seem to mind, and his eyes were curved. "It was a coincidence and I was lucky. I recovered when I broke through to become a stage 7 warrior." The corner of Mu Hongyu's eyes twitched fiercely. These people are so perverted. She vaguely felt that if she continued to stay here, her days would not be too good. Although she was already mentally prepared, she realized that she was still too naive until now. "Other than the appointment, I came here this time to ask the seniors for a favor." What she was afraid of came true. Just as Mu Hongyu's heart was trembling, Chu Luiyue grabbed her hand and pushed it forward. "Hongyu has the faint Yuan body, and she's getting closer and closer to becoming a stage 7 warrior. I once read in an ancient book that the divine tribulation of the faint Yuan body is extremely difficult to pass. So, I would like to ask the seniors for help and guidance. I wonder. This small matter is naturally not a problem." Diwu Zhangzi agreed immediately. "With me here, I guarantee to help her successfully pass the divine tribulation." Chu Luiyue's eyes lit up. "Are you really willing to help? What's the big deal? The faint Yuan body is a good seedling after all. It would be a pity if it was wasted." Diwu Zhangzi couldn't help but sneer as he spoke. "Those mediocre people of the Tianling dynasty will only delay her. For the next period of time, you just have to stay here until you pass the divine tribulation." Since he said so, he really intended to help. "Thank you, Senior Diwu." Mu Hongyu also hurriedly bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Senior Diwu." After finalizing this matter, Chu Luiyue breathed a sigh of relief. "By the way, may I know why the seniors have asked me to come here?" After settling Mu Hongyu, Chu Luiyue turned his attention back to this matter. Diwu Zhangzi didn't answer immediately. Instead, he seemed to hesitate. "I'll let De Bao tell you. I'll bring her around to familiarize herself with the environment first." Who knew how astonishing Dugu Mabao's true strength was? At this moment, a gentle yet powerful energy suddenly gushed out from the water droplet in her body, entering her limbs and bones. That oppressive feeling dissipated by a lot. However, Chu Luiyue still held her breath and looked ahead without blinking, not daring to miss a single thing. my divine body is inside here. For some reason, Dugu Mabao's voice sounded even more awkward. Later you just need to prick your index finger and inject some origin power into it. Chu Luiyue nodded slightly. Okay. Then the cocoon of light flew toward Chu Luiyue. Perhaps Dugu Mabao had purposely restrained his aura, so Chu Luiyue did not feel any stronger pressure. With the support of the water droplet's power, she could barely stand still. At this moment, Chu Luiyue thought of a problem. Why does this cocoon of light look a little small? Since it's a divine body, it shouldn't look like this. This thought flashed through his mind. Soon, the cocoon of light floated to a step away from Chu Luiyue. There was a faint layer of purple on the cocoon of light, which was magnificent and beautiful. It was a blur inside and she could not see it clearly. Chu Luiyue did not think much of it. She bit her index finger and a dark red blood droplet quickly appeared. Then, the blood droplet seemed to be guided by some kind of power. It left Chu Luiyue's fingertip and floated toward the cocoon of light. Of course, at the same time, it contained an extremely rich origin power. The blood droplet quickly landed in the middle of the cocoon of light. The moment it touched the cocoon of light, the blood droplet quickly disappeared. Then, with a buzzing sound, the cocoon of light suddenly shone brightly. Chu Luiyue instinctively raised her hand to cover her eyes. The purple light shone brightly. Crack. Chu Luiyue clearly heard the sound of something breaking. When the light gradually dissipated, she looked up and looked ahead. With one look, she was stunned on the spot. The cocoon of light had disappeared. It was as if a layer of gauze had been lifted, and she could finally see the situation inside. A child who looked to be 3 or 4 years old was quietly floating in the air. His small face was fair and cute, pink and chubby. His eyelashes were unbelievably thick and slightly curled. He had short purple hair that was fluffy and soft. When the breeze blew, it gently fluttered. As if sensing Chu Luiyue's gaze, he suddenly opened his eyes. A pair of purple eyes. They were so beautiful that they were almost demonic. The two of them looked at each other. He frowned and his expression was fierce. What are you looking at? Haven't you seen it before? This sentence was originally very imposing, but it was a pity that the voice was too cute and did not have much deterrence. Chu Luiyue came back to her senses, stretched out her hand and pointed. Debao, you're not wearing clothes. This way, even if they knew that he had a divine body, the threat he posed was still zero. Chu Luiyue held back his laughter and said with a very serious and sincere expression, Debao, did I help you? Only then did Debao's expression soften a little. He turned his face and looked into the distance. After a moment he responded with an Chu Luiyue smiled, his eyes curved. That's good. However, can I ask, why can I help you like this? Chu Luiyue's eyes were filled with curiosity. Although she had broken through to become a rank 7 warrior and even had a strand of divine power stored in her body, it didn't seem like it was the turn of a cultivator of her level to awaken a divine body, right? Why didn't she know that she was so powerful? Dugu Mabao frowned. Of course it's because of you, it's you. Chu Luiyue was stunned. What did he mean by that? Dugu Mabao glanced at her and saw her blank expression. He suddenly remembered that she had forgotten those things. He opened his mouth, but when the words reached his mouth, he changed his mind. After the divine body is successfully condensed, a certain amount of divine power is needed as a primer. Coincidentally, you have a strand of divine power in your body, so... Chu Luiyue's eyes flickered as she smiled faintly. I have divine power, and it's something that only happened recently. Could it be that you already knew at that time so you got Xuanhuan to deliver the news? Debao and the other two were indeed powerful, but they couldn't leave the Red Moon Desert, so it was impossible for them to know about these things so quickly. In other words, they must have made this plan long ago. Then it definitely wasn't because of the divine power in her body. Dugu Mabao choked and immediately said, You misheard. You heard wrong. I was talking about the heavenly energy. You had it in your body before, didn't you? Chu Luiyue smiled but didn't say anything. The two of them were standing face to face, so of course she couldn't have heard wrongly. Moreover, there were 3 strands of heavenly Tao power in her body. One was obtained when she broke open the Tianling God realm, and the other 2 were obtained from the legendary 3-eyed eagle and dumpling. However, she was very tactful and didn't continue asking. Dugu Mabao obviously didn't want to answer this question directly now, so there was no point in asking anymore. Thus, she nodded to show that she understood and changed the topic. I see. Oh right, just now, Senior Lan Xiao said that you seem to have only... When Lan Xiao said, a small problem, he was probably referring to Dugu Mabao's divine body being too young. Even though he always sounded like a child, Chu Luiyue definitely didn't believe that Dugu Mabao was a real 3-year-old child. This matter seemed to have something to do with her? Dugu Mabao frowned and returned to his usual expressionless face. It has nothing to do with you. Chapter 1020. Chu Liyue's heart shuddered violently. Didn't this mean that Debao might be like this for the rest of his life? A person's life was extremely long, let alone someone like Debao who had already stepped into the god realm and condensed a godly body. Although he looked cute now, he wasn't a real child. If he was trapped in the godly body of a 3-year-old forever, it would be an extremely torturous thing for anyone. Don't let him see that you already know. Lan Xiao sighed. Even Diwu and I didn't know about this decision at first. If it wasn't for the failure, if it wasn't for the fact that we almost failed and woke us up, we wouldn't have known. He refused to tell you about this and he didn't let us mention it either. But I don't think we should hide this from you. I'm not saying this to make you feel grateful to him, but to let you know. Although some people choose to betray you, there are also people who will always be on your side. Even if you have to pay a huge price. This was the first time Chu Liyue heard Lan Xiao speak so seriously. There seemed to be something surging in her chest. Her heart was hot and swollen, and even her limbs and bones seemed to have warmed up. She closed her eyes and hid the bitterness in them. When she looked up again, she had already regained her smile. No matter what, Debao, I'm very happy to be able to help you. Since he had already condensed a godly body, Dugu Mabao was a free man. After being trapped in the Red Moon Desert for so many years, he was still not used to it when he suddenly came out. Especially in his current state. It took him a long time to gradually convince himself to ignore this point. After all, it was already very difficult to come out. After the two of them chatted for a while, Chu Liyue asked a question that had been hovering in her heart for a long time. Debao, you know Rongxiu, right? Dugu Mabao glanced at her. Chu Liyue's eyes were calm. For you to be willing to let Xue deliver such important news, it's actually enough to prove this, isn't it? Hearing her name, Xue, who had been waiting patiently in the distance, became spirited. Then he heard Dugu Mabao's cold voice. It just so happens that I needed to look for you. It came by itself. It would be a waste not to use it. Xue shuddered. She wanted to cry but had no tears. How could he have come by himself? If it wasn't for the master's order, why would it come to this place? He really had no animal rights. Chu Liyue paused. Dugu Mabao's words didn't directly answer her question. She looked up slightly and smiled. Debao, you don't have to worry so much. I've already remembered many things, including the things that happened with Rongxiu in the Divine Ruins world. As soon as he said that, a trace of shock and surprise finally flashed through Dugu Mabao's beautiful and bewitching purple eyes. You remember everything? When did this happen? If it were anyone else, they might not even be able to meet them. Chu Liyue waved at Xue. Xue, we should go. When Xue heard that, although it was a little unwilling, it still slowly moved over. It walked straight to Chu Liyue's feet and quickly glanced at Dugu Mabao before leaning close to Chu Liyue. Dumpling, who was squatting on Xue's shoulder, finally couldn't help but snicker. Xue glared at it angrily. You're the only one who didn't make it in time. You can try the power of this ancestor. Young. Ignorant. A cold smile flashed across Dumpling's bright eyes. Then it leaned its head and nestled in Chu Liyue's shoulder. Did it think it was stupid? Of course, it could tell that Dugu Mabao was very strong and couldn't be offended. If it had its own master to rely on, why would it go to someone else to suffer? Xue slowly widened its eyes. Its face was filled with grief and anger. In the end, it turned its head away angrily and didn't argue with it. It chose its own master. What could it do? Achoo! Rongxiu suddenly sneezed. He rubbed his nose. Looks like a certain someone hasn't been living very well recently. Fortunately, you have a strand of divine power in your body. At that time, I might be able to force my way in. Chu Liyue gently nodded and silently clenched his fists. Dugu Mabao's words were actually very objective. She indeed did not have that right now. Compared to the top powerhouses of the mainland, the current her was probably just an ant. The strong were respected. Only when she became stronger could she have the right to speak. Otherwise, she could only be trampled on by others. She did not even have the right to raise her head to look at others. Dugu Mabao seemed to have seen through her thoughts. His expression changed slightly and his voice softened a little. Although your current level is not high, you have recovered the Tianjing Yuan Meridian and have several trump cards. You are not inferior to those disciples of the Divine Ruins world. Chu Liyue knew that he was comforting her. Her eyes curved slightly as she nodded seriously. Yes, I know. After a moment of silence, she suddenly thought of something and asked, "Oh right, I haven't asked. What clan does Rongxiu belong to?" Previously, Rongxiu had mentioned that his mother's clan was in the Heaven's Canopy world. Now it seemed that it was the Divine Ruins world. At that time she vaguely felt that it should be a very large clan. It was just that she did not ask in detail, so she was not too sure. Since they were going to the Divine Ruins world now, they should have some understanding. Dugu Mabao's expression suddenly became a little strange. "When we arrive you will naturally know." Chu Luiyue was stunned. They were almost there, but Dugu Mabao was still keeping it a secret? But looking at his determined expression, she had no choice but to shrug her shoulders. "Alright. When we arrive I will ask him personally." She also wanted to see how Rongxiu would explain it when the time came. 10 days later, Chu Luiyue and Dugu Mabao finally arrived at the border of the Divine Ruins world. This was a vast plain that stretched as far as the eye could see. It was very similar to the Heaven's Canopy world. There was also a translucent silver curtain that descended from the sky. However, the pressure from above was much stronger than that of the Heaven's Canopy world. Vaguely, one could see the occasional silhouette of a person flashing past behind the curtain. That should be the person in charge of guarding the border of the Divine Ruins world. At this moment, Chu Luiyue already felt a little stuffy in her chest before they even got close. If not for the fact that she had already broken through to become a rank 7 warrior and had stored endless force and divine power in her body, she would probably have knelt on the ground at this moment. She looked around. On the boundless plain, there were not many people coming and going. Dugu Mabao retracted his aura and descended from the sky. "From here on out, everyone will have to walk." Chu Luiyue nodded. "Follow me." Dugu Mabao said and walked forward. Chu Luiyue quickly followed. The closer they got, the stronger the pressure. Chu Luiyue only felt that her shoulders were getting heavier and heavier, but fortunately, it was still within her tolerance range. When the two of them walked to a certain position, a figure suddenly flew out from the light curtain. At the same time, a huge rune appeared on the light curtain. "This is the gate world of the Heavenly Cave Cliff. Who are you?" Digression, 6 p.m. Chapter 1022. A God-level expert. The moment Chu Luiyue saw the other party, she immediately felt a heavy pressure. She clenched her fists in her sleeves and straightened her back. Then she took a step forward and said in a neither servile nor overbearing tone, "I am Duguyu. Greetings, sir." She did not report her identity as Xuanhuan or Chu Luiyue. Instead, she chose the same surname as De Bao and a fake name. She also wore a mask on her face and disguised herself as an ordinary woman. This was because she did not know what identity she had used when she came to the Divine Ruins world in the past. Moreover, she did not deliberately hide the fact that Chu Luiyue was Xuanhuan. If someone investigated, they would know. Therefore, on the way here, she had already discussed with De Bao that she would completely change her identity to make things easier. Lin Xiao, who was in charge of guarding the gate, sized up the woman in front of him. She looked to be around 20 years old and had an ordinary appearance. Only a pair of jet-black jade-like eyes could be seen as they moved. It was a pity that such eyes grew on such a face. But this was not the main point of his attention. Lin Xiao's expression was cold and solemn as he frowned. "Those who are not from the Divine Ruins world, only those who have broken through to the 9th stage and stepped into the divine realm are qualified to enter. Are you enough?" Between his words, there was a natural sense of superiority in his bones. It was not that he was deliberately looking down on Chu Luiyue, but that they had always been like this to people who were not from the Divine Ruins world. They were guarding this place and had to see countless people who wanted to enter the Divine Ruins world every day. Some of them had true ability and relied on their own strength to break through that threshold and obtain permission to enter, thus stepping into a new stage. But such people were few and far between. The cultivation environment outside the Divine Ruins world was very ordinary. Those who could reach this step were all geniuses among geniuses. Sometimes, an empire might not be able to produce such an expert in hundreds of years. Most of the rest of them were trying to sneak in by swindling and using underhanded methods. Therefore, the guards here, no matter which clan they were from, scoffed at such people. When he heard that Chu Luiyue was from the Tianling dynasty, he naturally did not pay much attention to her. How could such a young girl have such ability? She was most likely here to play. If it wasn't for the fact that she seemed to have some kind of divine artifact on her that concealed her aura and made it impossible to tell what level she was at, he wouldn't even ask this question. Chu Luiyue did not mind his impatience. She smiled and raised her hand. A brilliant and dazzling origin power appeared at her fingertips. Lin Zhao's originally lazy and impatient expression suddenly froze, and a trace of shock appeared in his eyes. This was divine power. You are a demigod? He looked at the woman in front of him in bewilderment and asked in disbelief. A demigod cultivator, a cultivator, a cultivator, a cultivator, a cultivator, a cultivator. Just like Taizu back in the day. Lin Xiao asked this because he could see that the divine power the woman in front of him could use was limited. However, she did have divine power. In such a situation she was basically a demigod. Dugu Mabao had told Chu Luiyue about this on the way here. Therefore, Chu Luiyue put away the ball of divine power, then smiled and nodded, taking advantage of the situation. I wonder if I am qualified to enter now? Of course she was qualified to enter. Lin Zhao's expression changed, and the way he looked at Chu Luiyue again was very different from before. There was more respect. Is this your first time here? Chu Luiyue nodded. Those who are here for the first time have to register. Lin Xiao said and waved his wrist. A booklet appeared out of thin air. He opened the booklet and handed over a pen at the same time. You just need to write your name and the date. Chu Luiyue glanced at it. This booklet was not connected to an ordinary book. It was as heavy as a boulder. She almost couldn't hold it properly at first. The booklet had been opened, and what appeared in front of Chu Luiyue was a blank page. However, she could vaguely see that there were some names written on the front page which were glowing with different colors. Chu Luiyue picked up the pen and wrote down her name. Duguyu. After writing, her wrist paused and she looked up at Lin Xiao. I wonder if this date, Xuanhuan calendar, year 3574, the 16th of September. Lin Xiao reminded her. Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat. The pen in her hand accidentally drew a line on the page. Lin Xiao frowned. What's wrong? Chu Luiyue immediately lowered her eyes. Nothing, it's just that. I feel that this calendar is a little strange. I've never heard of it before. Lin Xiao snorted with a hint of arrogance. You're not from the Divine Ruins world, so it's normal that you don't know about this. Remember, when you enter the Divine Ruins world in the future, follow this calendar. Chu Luiyue gripped the pen tightly, suppressed the waves in her heart, and wrote that line of words. Then she handed over the booklet and pen and smiled at him gratefully. Thank you for your reminder, sir. When she smiled, her eyes curved into crescents and her eyes shone brightly, adding a touch of charm to her originally ordinary appearance. Lin Xiao looked at her and couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Although her appearance was ordinary at first sight, after looking at her for a long time, she was quite good-looking. Her speech and actions were also quite elegant, making people have a good impression of her. Chapter 1023. Chu Luiyue's mind went blank. This person seemed to have gotten something wrong? Before she could say anything, she felt a cold air that could freeze a person to death suddenly erupt beside her. She turned her head and saw that Dugu Mabao's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Looking at his expression, Chu Luiyue was quick to react. She pressed his head with one hand and turned his face away. If he continued to look at me, I'm afraid that he would kill me with that gaze. Sir, you must be joking. Before Chu Luiyue could finish her explanation, Dugu Mabao grabbed Chu Luiyue's wrist and turned his head stubbornly. Anyone who saw the expression on his little face would have noticed that something was wrong. Lin Xiao seemed to have noticed something. She turned her gaze and looked down. Chu Luiyue bent down and quickly hugged Dugu Mabao with one hand and pressed his little head onto her shoulder with the other. Before Dugu Mabao could react, his whole body was suddenly lifted into the air and he fell into a warm and sweet embrace. He turned his little hand and was about to hit her, but he held himself back in the end. Sir, look, it's not easy for me to take care of a child alone. A trace of misery quickly appeared on her face. Although she was still smiling, it only made people feel bitter. I don't know where his father is now. Dugu Mabao struggled violently, but unfortunately, Chu Luiyue hugged him tightly. On one hand, he did not want to use his strength. On the other hand, he was afraid that he would really hurt Chu Luiyue if he made a move. He could only rely on his short and fat body to try his best. Unfortunately, it did not work. Dabao, be good, Chu Luiyue softly coaxed him. Her arms secretly clamped his waist so that he could not move. At the same time, her palm gently patted his back as if she was really coaxing a child. When Dugu Mabao heard this, he finally gave up struggling and buried his face tightly into Chu Luiyue's shoulder in despair. At this time it was better not to show his face. Otherwise, if this matter were to spread out, his reputation would be completely ruined. Seeing that he had finally stopped, Chu Luiyue secretly heaved a sigh of relief and looked at Lin Xiao pleadingly. Sir, please help us. Look, such a small child, if no one takes care of him, she had an aggrieved look on her face which made one's heart ache. Lin Zhao's frown deeper, but she still waved her hand. "No. There has never been a precedent like this before. How? Let them go in together." At this moment, a gentle voice came from behind them. Chu Luiyue turned to look. The person who came was a young man who looked to be about 17 or 18 years old. He was very handsome and the color of his eyes was very light. There was a shallow crescent-shaped scar at the corner of his eye, which made his cold and distant temperament even more obvious. He wore a crescent-shaped white brocade robe and stood tall and straight. He deserved to be called an elegant young master. However, his face was very pale, especially his lips, which did not have any color in them. It looked as if he had been sick for a long time. It was as if a light touch would shatter like glass. However, Chu Luiyue quickly realized that this person's aura was very strong. He was also a powerhouse who had stepped into the god realm. It seemed like he was also a demigod. When Lin Xiao saw the person who came, her expression changed and she immediately knelt down on one knee to greet him. "Greetings, fourth young master." Cough, cough, cough. The young man was about to say something but suddenly coughed. Lin Xiao quickly went forward looking nervous. "Fourth young master, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell again?" The young man smiled faintly. "My body has always been like this. I'm already used to it." He shook his head indicating that he was fine and pointed at Chu Luiyue and Lin Xiao. It's not easy for her to raise a child alone. No matter what, the child didn't commit any crimes. This child is only 3 years old and he won't cause any trouble. It's fine to let him in. Why separate the mother and son over such a small matter? His tone was very calm, as if he was looking at Chu Luiyue and Lin Xiao, or as if he was recalling something. Lin Xiao did not dare to say anything. Everyone knew that the Heavenly Cave Cliff's matriarch had died in childbirth in order to give birth to the fourth young master, Lin Qifei. For many years, the fourth young master had been brooding about this. There were many rumors outside that the fourth young master was a freak who was born to jinx his mother to death. Although the higher-ups had always ordered that rumors were not to be spread, how could they control people's mouths? The fourth young master had more or less heard about it. This also caused his personality to be more sensitive, introverted, and indifferent. Under normal circumstances, he would not care about these things. Today, when he saw the scene of the mother and son being separated, he could not bear it, so he opened his mouth. "Since the fourth young master has said so, then I will let them in. I hope the fourth young master can rest assured." Lin Xiao respectfully responded, and then said to Chu Luiyue, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and thank the fourth young master." Chu Luiyue immediately hugged De Bao and thanked Lin Qifei with a face full of gratitude. "Thank you, fourth young master." Lin Qifei just waved his hand and said calmly, "It's nothing. It's not easy for you to come this far. When you enter the Divine Ruins world in the future, you must take good care of him." As he spoke, he looked at Dugu Mabao, who was still lying in Chu Luiyue's arms. "Although you are still young, I hope that you will be sensible soon and understand your mother's hard work. Unless you have a strong background or have a strong person by your side, you should not easily reveal your level." Especially, Dugu Mabao stopped in his tracks and looked up at her. "You're still so weak." Chu Luiyue choked. She had lived 2 lives. Other than when she had just been reborn and was called a good-for-nothing for a period of time, she was called a genius most of the time. Whether they liked or disliked her, no matter how unwilling they were in this aspect, they would all admit that she was extremely talented. Only De Bao was always full of disdain for her. However, he was right. In this place she was indeed very weak. She pursed her lips. Her desire to become stronger became even more urgent. Most people use yuan instruments to hide their auras. However, there are good and bad yuan instruments. Some of the top experts are still able to see through the yuan instrument and see through the cultivator's rank. "Then mine, don't worry about yours," Dugu Mabao said lightly. "Your yuan instrument that hides your aura is still somewhat useful. Normal people can't see anything." Chu Luiyue responded as if she understood. She touched the silver ring around her neck that was the size of a fingernail. This thing was given to her by Dugu Mabao in the beginning. At that time, he only said that he had to hide his aura in order to smoothly pass through the border of the world of divine ruins. She did not expect it to be so important. However, she did not know what level this item was. "There's a teleportation formation in the city ahead. Let's go there." Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1025. The two of them walked all the way to the city gate. There were guards in charge of guarding the gate. They held long swords and stood on both sides. They were dressed in the same uniform and had the same tattoo on the left side of their chests. Chu Luiwei glanced at it. It was the one that appeared on the light screen when they came in earlier. It was the totem of Grotto Heaven Cliff. The city gate was obviously much livelier. There was an endless stream of people coming and going. Chu Luiwei led Dugu Mabao forward. The two of them were very eye-catching in the crowd. Chu Luiwei was wearing a mask and looked ordinary. But Dugu Mabao was the key. He had purple hair and purple eyes and was very cute. Plus, his eyes were unbelievably beautiful and clean. Anyone who saw him would like him. When such a small person walked on the street, 100% of the people turned to look at him. Chu Luiwei gradually felt that it was a little inconvenient to be stared at by more and more people. What she was most worried about was that if these people continued to stare, this little ancestor would lose his temper. She glanced at Dugu Mabao and saw that his face had turned cold. There was anger in his eyes. Oh my, whose child is this? Why is he so beautiful? When a big sister came forward to strike up a conversation and reached out to touch Dugu Mabao's face, his face finally darkened completely. Chu Luiwei saw that the situation was not right. She quickly pulled him behind her and smiled apologetically at the woman. I'm sorry. Our child is more introverted and is afraid of strangers. The woman was very disappointed that she did not manage to touch his chubby face. But since he had said so, she did not continue to disturb him. She could only leave reluctantly. Even after she had left, she kept looking back. Dugu Mabao said coldly, "If you hadn't stopped me, I wouldn't have let her go so easily. She didn't mean any harm." Chu Luiwei sighed but could only persuade him. Any divine-level expert who had been reduced to such a state and even had their face touched by a stranger would probably be displeased. Anyway, we'll be leaving soon. Bear with it, okay? Dugu Mabao's heart felt stifled. She looked more like she was coaxing a child. He turned around and left in annoyance. Since she did not object, it meant that she agreed. Chu Luiwei secretly heaved a sigh of relief. She thought for a moment and said, "Actually, if you don't look good, they wouldn't look at you like that. Get used to it, get used to it." In any case, she had already trained herself to be able to turn a blind eye to the various gazes of others around her. Dugu Mabao frowned. Of course he wasn't used to it. No one had ever dared to look at him like that before. Unless they were tired of living. But now he could not say these words to her. After thinking about it, he could only endure it. Dugu Mabao said calmly, "Chu Luiwei." After walking for a while, the two of them returned to a more lively street. Chu Luiwei walked to a shop that sold medicinal herbs and walked towards a shop assistant. "Hello, may I know how to get to the level 1 teleportation formation here?" Although Heavenly Cave Cliff was a city, it covered a large area. It was not convenient for her and Dugu Mabao to look around, so asking someone was the most convenient and fastest way. The shop assistant thought that Chu Luiwei was there to buy medicinal herbs, but when he heard that, his face immediately drooped and his eyelids were half opened. "You want to go there?" "Yes. Please show me the way." Chu Luiwei did not seem to care about his cold attitude. She still had a smile on her face. "I'm advising you not to go." Chu Luiwei was stunned. "Why is that?" "Why else? Look over there." As he spoke, he raised his hand and pointed in a certain direction. Chu Luiwei looked over and indeed saw a faint light shining over there. Of course it's because the teleportation formation is broken. The shop assistant crossed his arms. "Even the cliff master and the others can't use it now, let alone you? If there's nothing else, hurry up and leave. Don't delay our business here." Chu Luiwei frowned slightly. It was not easy to come in, but the teleportation formation was broken? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1026. Is there really no other way? In a tea house, Chu Luiwei and Dugu Mabao sat opposite each other. Chu Luiwei looked in the direction of the teleportation formation again and asked, unwilling to give up. "No." Dugu Mabao's answer was very straightforward. The power of space in the divine ruins is mixed, and the sects are very far away from each other. If ordinary people want to travel here, they have to rely on teleportation formations. Even with a divine beast leading the way, it's very easy to get lost. But we still have Snowy. It won't get the wrong place, but the journey is long and we'll spend a lot of time on the way. Most importantly, it's easy to attract trouble. In the wilderness, killing intent is everywhere. If we're not careful. Chu Luiwei understood without saying anything else. She rubbed her eyebrows. In other words, we can only rely on the teleportation formation. But now, the teleportation formation at Grotto Heaven Cliff is broken. What should we do? Either this teleportation formation is repaired quickly, or we can change to another teleportation formation. If that grade 1 teleportation formation couldn't be used, then they could use other grade 2 or grade 3 teleportation formations to go somewhere else. It couldn't be that every grade 1 teleportation formation was broken, right? It's not impossible, but it'll be more troublesome. Chu Luiyue was helpless. But now this is the only way. Are we going to wait here for them to fix the grade 1 teleportation formation? Who knew how long they would have to wait? Dugu Mabao thought for a moment and finally nodded in agreement. Chu Luiyue asked around and found out that there were 2 grade 2 teleportation formations here, and they led to 2 different places. After discussing, the 2 of them walked out of the tea house. I'll choose one randomly. No matter which one it is, as long as we can get to the place. Before Chu Luiyue could finish her sentence, she suddenly felt a cold air coming toward her. She stopped in her tracks and looked up abruptly. Who is it? This was a bluestone path. There was no one in front or behind, and it was very quiet. However, Chu Luiyue was still very vigilant, and he began to secretly circulate the force in his body. As expected of someone who could barge in from the outside. You're quite alert. A low and deep voice sounded, carrying a trace of malice. Then, the void in front of Chu Luiyue suddenly rippled. A huge hand tore the void apart with incomparable force. A man walked out from within. He looked to be in his 30s. He was tall and had a square face. There was an inch-long scar on his left cheek that looked like a centipede, giving him a ferocious aura. Chu Luiyue's heart suddenly jumped. This person's strength was definitely far above hers. The man's eyes swept over Chu Luiyue. When he saw the universe ring on her hand, his eyes lit up. Oh, you really do have some good treasures on you. The level of this interspatial ring was not low. There must be a lot of good stuff inside. The ones he had encountered before were all inferior to this one. He stretched out his hand and said in a commanding tone, "Don't worry. As long as you hand over the interspatial ring on your hand, I promise I won't kill you." Chu Luiyue's eyes were slightly cold. You want my interspatial ring? The man chuckled and stroked the stubble on his chin. If you want to give me something else, it's not impossible. Although her face is ordinary, her body is top-notch. Chu Luiyue was not angry. Instead, she smiled and asked softly, "What if I say no?" Digression. My heart is so tired. In order to let the bookstore synchronize the chapters of the surrounding activities, I specially asked the editor to open the second volume. However, the second volume was a free volume. The chapters would be posted here by default. So, I didn't read it clearly just now and accidentally posted it as a free chapter. Thank you for Yuyu and Lizzie's reminder. I will try to pay more attention in the future. The insomnia headache continued at 6:00 p.m. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. When Rong Xiao sent Yanqing to deliver this thing, she immediately saw that the interspatial ring was of a very high level. She just did not expect that it would cause her such trouble now. Dugu Mabao could not help but snort with undisguised contempt and disdain. If he really has good eyesight, he won't. He won't come up to snatch the interspatial ring. Unfortunately, he has bad eyesight. He doesn't even know who he has offended. What? Chu Luiyue asked curiously. Nothing. Dugu Mabao glanced at the sky. Let's go to the second-level transmission array first. There were 2 second-level transmission arrays in Dongtian Cliff City, located in the north and south of the city. The 2 went directly to the south of the city. From afar, the 2 of them saw the huge teleportation array. There was a circle of guards around the transmission array. Their clothes were also tattooed with the totem of the Lin family of Dongtian Cliff. Chu Luiyue was secretly shocked. Although it was only a second-level transmission array, its size and scale were more powerful than the largest transmission array in the Tianling dynasty. In other words, there was no room for comparison between the 2. It was already afternoon, but there were still people coming and going around the transmission array. Everyone would first go to the bottom left when they boarded the transmission array. It seemed that there was a charge for it. Chu Luiyue walked over with Dugu Mabao and said politely, "Hello. We want to board the transmission array and go to the nearest city from here." The man looked up at her. When he saw Dugu Mabao next to her, he narrowed his eyes and said indifferently, "I won't take your order." Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1028. What? Chu Luiyue looked at the people in front of him who had already paid and boarded the teleportation formation. If they can, why can't I? The guard snorted and revealed a sarcastic smile. You have to ask yourselves this. You offended someone you shouldn't have and you still ask why? Chu Luiyue frowned and suddenly understood. It seemed that it was Lu Yi's fault. Chu Luiyue had long expected that he wouldn't let it go, but he didn't expect his power and means to be so powerful that he could directly prohibit them from boarding the teleportation formation in such a short time. Logically speaking, this teleportation formation should belong to the Lin family. Who was that Lu Yi to have such power? Chu Luiyue calmed down. I'll pay twice the price. The guard didn't even raise his head. Don't think about it. Anyway, we won't let you go up. You give up. Next. 5 times. Chu Luiyue took a step forward. If 5 times is not enough, I'll pay 10 times. The surrounding people quieted down and looked over with different expressions. What a big tone. She actually wants to pay 10 times? Does she know how much the last teleportation formation cost? How dare she boast like this? I think they look a little familiar. Hey, they seem to be the 2 outsiders who entered the city today. That child has purple hair and purple eyes. Isn't that her? Yes. I heard about it too. It's them. It seems that they really offended someone. Now, it's difficult for them to move at Cave Heaven Cliff. The surrounding people were discussing. Chu Luiyue's heart sank slightly. Sure enough, the guard opposite him shrugged without a smile. I said, no matter how much money you pay, it's useless. If you have the time, you'd better apologize to them as soon as possible so that it won't be too ugly in the end. With that, he waved at the people behind him. What are you waiting for? Don't you want to board the teleportation formation? Hurry up. The people behind Chu Luiyue hurriedly stepped forward and pushed her away. Coming. Chu Luiyue took 2 steps back and subconsciously pulled Dugu Mabao behind him to protect him. She stood there for a while, then turned and left. Let's go take a look at the other teleportation array. The result was as expected. The other teleportation portal also firmly rejected Chu Luiyue. Even the remaining 3 level 3 teleportation arrays were the same. In other words, Chu Luiyue and Dugu Mabao no longer had the chance to leave this place and head to other places. In the blink of an eye, it was already night time. Chu Luiyue found an inn to rest, but he was not in the mood to sleep. It seems that this Lu Yi's identity is indeed not ordinary. He was even more scheming than she had expected. At this level, he could already be considered a local tyrant. He must be related to the Lin family. Dugu Mabao sat on the chair and said calmly. As for the itinerant cultivators like Chu Luiyue who came from outside, he bullied them even more. This time he was annoyed by Chu Luiyue, so he was ruthless and directly blocked all the teleportation formations. It was obvious that he wanted to force Chu Luiyue to bow down. He had forced her into a corner. Before the waiter left, he didn't forget to persuade Chu Luiyue to beg for mercy as soon as possible. Otherwise, her days in Cave Heaven Cliff would become more and more difficult. Chu Luiyue didn't comment. When there was no one else in the room, she directly burned the letter. He wants me to kowtow and apologize? He thinks he's a big shot. Chu Luiyue sneered. Back at ancient Phoenix Mountain, when she met the remnant consciousness of the northern underworld Taizu, she didn't back down. Let alone a mere good-for-nothing rich kid who couldn't be helped. Dugu Mabao looked up slightly, and a faint glow flickered in his beautiful purple eyes. Do you want me to do it? Chu Luiyue shook her head. No need. I have my own way to deal with him. She knew Dugu Mabao had his concerns. Although she didn't know why, she didn't want to trouble him unless it was a critical moment. What way? Dugu Mabao frowned slightly. You won't be a match for him if you rely on yourself. Chu Luiyue curled her lips into a smile. He has a backer. Why don't we find a more powerful backer? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1029. The next morning, Chu Luiyue brought Dugu Mabao to the entrance of the Lin clan. The 2 of them standing in front of the entrance was very eye-catching. Chu Luiyue stepped forward and bowed politely. Sirs, please inform the Lin clan's patriarch that my daughter, Dugu, would like to see him. The Lin clan's patriarch was naturally the cliff master of Cave Heaven Cliff, Lin Tianfeng. The 2 guards looked at each other. One of them asked, Do you have an appointment? Chu Luiyue shook her head. No. Do you have an invitation? No. Do you have a letter of recommendation? No. The guard's expression turned ugly. She had nothing, yet she wanted to see him. How bold. He waved his hand impatiently. I won't see anyone who doesn't have that. Chu Luiyue smiled. I know it's rude for me to visit you so suddenly, but I do have an important matter to attend to. Please help me, sirs. It's not a matter of whether we help or not. There are many people who want to see the patriarch. If we inform him of any random person's visit, what will happen? Lin Tianfeng is the most important person in Cave Heaven Cliff. How can you meet him just because you want to? With that, the guard urged her to leave. Chu Luiyue didn't take it to heart and continued. Sirs, you only need to tell him that the Lin clan's patriarch will be willing to see me. The guard seemed to have heard a joke. Oh? Then tell me, what is it? Chu Luiyue put her hands behind her back and said calmly. I can cure fourth young master Lin's chronic illness. She really said that? Lin Tianfeng was lying on a small bed. When he heard this, he pushed away Lu Yuer's hand that was massaging his temples and stood up abruptly. He looked excited. Lu Yuer's brows furrowed, but she quickly smoothed them out. Although she was already in her 30s, she still looked like a girl in her early 20s because of her good maintenance. Coupled with the mature charm in her eyes, she was indeed very beautiful. However, at this moment, Lin Tianfeng only had the guard's words in his mind. She really has a way to cure Jifei's illness? The guard hurriedly said. Yes, that's what she said. Hurry up. Lin Tianfeng said anxiously. For so many years, his youngest son's health had always been a thorn in his heart. She had tried countless methods to seek medical treatment, but there was no obvious improvement. Naturally, he couldn't contain his excitement. Master, don't be anxious. Since it was related to Jifei, everything had to be done with extra caution. Lu Yuer stood up, leisurely walked to his side and gently advised him. At the very least, shouldn't you at least ask what rank the heavenly doctor is? Right? Look at me, I even forgot about this. Lin Tianfeng clapped his hands and asked. What grade is she? This? She wasn't wearing a celestial physician's robe, so I'm not too sure, but when I heard that she could cure fourth young master, I hurried over. The guard's back was drenched in cold sweat. He had indeed neglected this point, but he could only brace himself and say it. As long as he said it was for the sake of fourth young master, the head of the house wouldn't be so calculative. As expected, Lin Tianfeng frowned when he heard this, but he didn't get angry. Lu Yuer scolded him from the side. What are you doing? You didn't even gather such crucial information and you dare to report it? The guard hurriedly knelt down and admitted his mistake. Lu Yuer stretched out her hand and grabbed Lin Tianfeng's arm. A trace of worry flashed across her face. Master, I know you're doing this for Jifei's sake, but we've met a lot of celestial physician over the years. If we let her in and treat Jifei, then I'm afraid it's not good. Besides, Jifei has always been afraid of strangers. Lin Tianfeng felt a headache coming on. The guard asked tentatively. Then, should I let her go? Lin Tianfeng gritted his teeth. Let her in first. I'll see her in person. No matter what, he had to give it a try. Lu Yuer's face stiffened for a moment, then she quickly lowered her eyes to hide the jealousy in her eyes. He wouldn't even let go of a glimmer of hope. He really cared about Lin Jifei the most. Chu Luiyue led Dugu Mabao into the Lin mansion under the guard's lead. As the noblest place in Cave Heaven Cliff, the Lin mansion occupied a vast area and was exquisite and luxurious. Whether it was the pavilions, terraces, or trees, they all exuded a noble aura. In addition, there were many xian formations set up in the courtyard. Chu Luiyue walked along. Although she didn't meet many people, there were many hidden auras. She calmly followed the guard all the way forward and quietly memorized everything she saw in her mind. When she reached the front hall, Lin Tianfeng was already waiting there. Chu Luiyue recognized him at a glance. Although he was middle-aged, Lin Tianfeng was graceful and elegant, and it wasn't difficult to see his handsome appearance when he was young. Lin Jifei indeed resembled him. Chu Luiyue walked over and bowed. Duguyu greets clan head Lin. Lin Tianfeng looked at her in surprise. He only heard the guard say that it was a woman, but he didn't know that she was so young. At this age, could there really be a way to cure Jifei's illness? Thinking of this, he directly asked, May I know what grade Miss Dugu is now? Chu Luiyue smiled faintly. 7th grade. Digression. Everything is not going well today, I'm so angry. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1030. As soon as she finished speaking, the hall fell silent. Lin Tianfeng's face became a little stiff. 7th grade. Chu Luiyue nodded slightly. She had no problem refining a 7th grade pill now. As for higher grades, she hadn't tried it yet, so it was better not to say for the time being. A mere 7th grade, and you dare to boast that you can cure my son's illness? Lin Tianfeng was so angry that he laughed. He was so excited before, thinking that he had finally met an expert. Who knew? It was just a 7th grade celestial physician. Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows slightly. A 7th grade celestial physician was definitely an existence that everyone admired in the Tianling dynasty. But here she was obviously not taken seriously at all. Guards, kick her out right now. Lin Tianfeng was full of anger. With a flick of his sleeve he sent someone to do it. Wait. Chu Luiyue said calmly. Her voice was very soft, but it carried a kind of pressure and power that couldn't be ignored, making the guards who were about to step forward subconsciously stop in their tracks. Master Lin, just because I'm a 7th grade celestial physician, you won't even give me a chance to try. Are you going to kick me out? A 7th grade celestial physician. You don't even have the qualifications to be the Lin family's celestial physician elder. You want me to give you a chance to try? Lin Qianfeng's face was full of anger, and he couldn't help but snort coldly. In your dreams. The lowest level celestial physician in the Lin family was an 8th grade mid-grade. The strongest one could even refine a 9th grade peak pill. And even they couldn't do anything about Ji Fei's illness. Why would they care about such a 7th grade celestial physician? Lin Tianfeng even felt that the woman in front of him was here to make a fool of him. He glanced at Dugu Mabao from the corner of his eye. If it weren't for the fact that she had a child, he would have already attacked her. Go. If you continue to pester me, don't blame me for being impolite. Chu Liyue's lips curved up slightly. Patriarch Lin, 4th young Master Lin, was born with a weak constitution and had this illness since birth. But it should have only gotten worse in recent years, right? Lin Tianfeng had already planned to turn around and leave, but when he heard this, his footsteps suddenly stopped. He turned around and looked at Chu Luiyue in surprise. Chu Luiyue continued. If I'm not wrong, 4th young Master Lin started coughing blood about a year ago. Lin Qianfeng's expression suddenly changed. His eyes were fixed on Chu Luiyue as he ordered the guards around him. All of you go down first. Without my permission, no one is allowed to come in. The guards looked at each other in dismay, but they hurriedly responded respectfully. Yes. With that said, the crowd quickly retreated. Soon, only Chu Luiyue, Dugu Mabao, and Lin Tianfeng were left in the hall. How did you know? Lin Tianfeng asked with a tense expression. Lin Qifei had been careful to keep the matter of vomiting blood a secret. Almost no one in the residence knew about it. Even he only found out about it by chance half a year ago. This Duguyu was very unfamiliar and looked very ordinary. Logically speaking, it was impossible for her to know about this. Naturally, I could tell. Chu Luiyue smiled. There's something that I forgot to tell you. I'm not from Heavenly Cave Cliff, but from outside the world of God. A few days ago, when I was passing by the gate of the world of God, I happened to meet 4th young Master Lin and had a few words with him. At that time he kept coughing so I could tell. Lin Tianfeng was stunned and took a while to react. You're an outsider? Yes. You met Ji Fei before? Yes. You could deduce so much just by listening to his coughing? Of course not. Chu Luiyue raised his eyebrows slightly. At that time, I also took a few more glances at 4th young Master Lin's face. Combining the two, I was able to guess. Lin Tianfeng sucked in a breath of cold air. This woman, did he really have such great ability? One had to know that even the most powerful celestial physician in Heavenly Cave Cliff could not tell anything was wrong with him before personally taking his pulse. Yet, she was able to guess so much just from this brief meeting? Lin Tianfeng did not dare to believe it. But since this woman said that she was an outsider, there was no point in lying. Could it be true? Lin Tianfeng spoke hesitantly but did not know what to say. On one hand, this woman's level was not high, and she was a stranger from outside the world of God. Her background was unknown. On the other hand, she did seem to have some ability. Are you really confident? Lin Tianfeng was a little shaken. Chu Luiyue smiled. Patriarch Lin, this is Heavenly Cave Cliff, the Lin family's territory. No matter how stupid I am, I will not take the initiative to cause trouble in the Lin family. What do you think? When she said that, Lin Tianfeng suddenly felt that it made some sense. She was an outsider with a child. Logically speaking, she did not have any background here. Since she dared to come directly, she most likely had a plan. Lin Tianfeng hesitated for a while before finally gritting his teeth. If that's the case, I'll give you a chance first. You, Master, you can't. Before he could finish his sentence, he was interrupted. Chu Luiyue looked back. A woman in a luxurious dress was leisurely walking over. She looked very young and beautiful. Why are you here? Lin Tianfeng was a little surprised. Chu Luiyue lowered his eyes. So this person was Luyu, She should be in her 30s, but he really could not tell at all. No wonder she could climb up to Lin Tianfeng with an ordinary background. Lu Yuer went straight to Lin Tianfeng's side. She frowned and asked in a soft voice, "Master, I saw that you chased the guards out just now and was worried that something might have happened, so I rushed in. You won't blame me, right?" Lin Tianfeng patted her hand. "Why would I blame you for such a small matter? Don't think too much. It's just that I'm discussing something with this Miss Dugu." Lu Yuer's gaze turned as if she had just seen Chu Luyue. When she saw the woman's ordinary face and the child standing next to her, she secretly sighed in relief. These days she had seen countless little bitches who wanted to use the opportunity to climb up the ranks. They really used all kinds of methods. If she had not strictly guarded the position for so many years, how could she have gotten the position of the matriarch? This must be Miss Duguyu. She slowly smiled, her eyes beautiful, but a faint trace of doubt appeared in her heart. This woman seemed to be here to treat Lin Qifei? But looking at her, she didn't seem to be a powerful person. "Master, look at Miss Dugu. She's young and has a child. Don't scare her," she said as if she was joking. Lin Tianfeng shook his head. "That won't happen. I'm going to ask her to check Jifei's pulse and see what's going on." "What?" Lu Yuer was shocked and blurted out. "How can that be?" Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1031. Her voice was particularly abrupt in the quiet hall. Lin Tianfeng frowned. "What, you don't think it's a good idea?" Lu Yuer knew that she had lost her composure and hurriedly smiled to cover it up. No, master, please don't misunderstand. I just felt a little surprised. This woman didn't seem to be anything special. Why would he agree to let her treat Lin Qifei? To be able to make master agree, this Miss Dugu must be very capable. As she spoke, she glanced at Chu Luyue. Miss Dugu's celestial physician rank must be very high, right? Chu Luyue smiled faintly. "Madam Lin, you flatter me. I'm just a 7th grade celestial physician now." Lu Yuer's eyes widened slightly as if she couldn't believe it. She subconsciously looked at Lin Tianfeng. Lin Tianfeng said, "Although Miss Dugu is only a 7th grade celestial physician, she's quite capable. Let her give it a try, she might be able to do it." Lu Yuer almost thought that Lin Tianfeng was joking. "Are you kidding me? A 7th grade celestial physician is qualified to treat Lin Qifei now?" She still remembered clearly how Lin Tianfeng had given the family's 8th grade and even 9th grade celestial physician attitude because he couldn't treat Lin Qifei. What was going on now? "Master, I know you're worried about Lin Qifei's health, but we can't just turn to any doctor in a desperate situation." Knowing that Chu Luyue's rank was ordinary, Lu Yuer didn't take her seriously anymore. She directly pulled Lin Tianfeng over and said worriedly, This woman's background is unknown. Are you really at ease to let her treat Jifei? You know that Jifei hates strangers the most. If his condition is aggravated, I'm here, what's there to worry about?" Lin Tianfeng disapproved of Lu Yuer's worries. A young woman with a child and an outsider to boot, what could she do? How could he be afraid in the Lin mansion? But, what's more, she has met Jifei before, so she's not a stranger. This was another important reason why Lin Tianfeng agreed to let her give it a try. Lin Qifei was introverted and reclusive. Even the people of the Lin mansion might not be able to talk to him. Since he was willing to talk to this woman, then there was no harm in letting her try. Lu Yuer was secretly shocked. When did this happen? Why didn't she know about it at all? She still wanted to say something, but seeing that Lin Tianfeng had already made up his mind, she tactfully stopped objecting. "I'll listen to master. As long as Jifei can recover, nothing else matters." There was something fishy about this matter. Perhaps in the end, it would all be for naught. Thinking of this, Lu Yuer relaxed a little. Lin Tianfeng looked at Chu Luyue. "Come with me." As the 4th young master of the Lin mansion, Lin Qifei was of noble status, but he lived in a remote courtyard in the southwest corner of the Lin mansion. Thanks to 4th young master's help last time, I haven't had a chance to thank you properly. So this time I came specially to help 4th young master. Lin Qifei was stunned for a moment before he reacted. He glanced at Lin Tianfeng. This Duguyu was an outsider. Father actually agreed to let her treat him. Could she be a powerful person? Don't waste your time. Lin Qifei's thin lips curved into a faint smile, but his light-colored eyes were full of alienation and coldness. I know my own body's condition. I've already tried so many methods but none of them worked. He didn't think that the woman in front of him could do anything. Chu Luyue wasn't discouraged. Fourth young master, you won't know until you try, right? Lin Tianfeng couldn't help but persuade him in a low voice. Yes. Jifei, father knows that you don't want to cause trouble. If it was an ordinary celestial physician, father wouldn't have let her come. This woman does have some skills. Let her take your pulse first and we'll talk about the rest later. How about it? Hearing Lin Tianfeng's words, Lin Qifei couldn't refuse. He paused for a moment then finally nodded. All right. Chu Luiyue stepped forward. Lin Tianfeng first handed over a handkerchief and placed it on Lin Qifei's wrist. Chu Luiyue didn't mind and gently placed his white and slender fingers on it. Digression. I'm so tired. I accidentally gave out the second chapter for free again. Everyone clear the cache and take a look. Chapter 1032. The room was completely silent. Chu Luiyue held his breath and channeled a strand of force into Lin Qifei's body. This strand of force was extremely thin and pure, and its perception was extremely sharp. Lin Qifei's Yuan Meridian was also a Daijing Yuan Meridian, and it was even a high-grade one. He could definitely be considered a genius among geniuses. However, for some reason, the flow of force in his body was not smooth, as if it was blocked by something. Chu Luiyue continued to investigate, and only then did he realize that there seemed to be something scattered around his Yuan Meridian like balls. The existence of these things was like huge rocks in a stream, blocking the flow of water. Although it did not completely block the flow of force, it was still a great resistance. It was also because of this that Lin Qifei's aura was always weak, even though he was very strong. These strange things were also deposited in his 5 viscera, especially his lungs. This was also the main reason he was coughing up blood. Chu Luiyue thoroughly checked the condition of his body, and only then did he withdraw the force and release his hand. How is it? Lin Tianfeng, who had been waiting nervously at the side, quickly asked. Chu Luiyue frowned slightly. The situation is worse than I expected. Lin Tianfeng's expression froze. What does this mean? Chu Luiyue glanced at Lin Qifei. What I mean is, fourth young master, to be able to hold on until now is really amazing. She guessed that Lin Qifei's body had been ill for a long time, and it would be more troublesome to treat. However, she did not expect that at this stage, he would still look so calm and normal. She could only say that he was too good at pretending. She did not know if it was because he did not want others to see his real condition or, really? Lin Tianfeng looked at Lin Qifei. Jifei, is what she said true? Lin Qifei smiled, his expression calm. Miss Dugu is exaggerating, I'm fine. If you don't treat the condition of your body in time, you have at most 3 years left. Chu Luiyue interrupted him. Fourth young master, as you said, you should be aware of your own body's condition, right? Lin Tianfeng suddenly stood up. Whoosh, bang. His movements were so violent that he knocked the chair over and landed heavily on the ground. How is this possible? 3 years. Nonsense. He said fiercely. Back then, the elders clearly said that as long as I take care of it, there wouldn't be any major problems. Chu Luiyue was calm. Master Lin, fourth young master knows best whether it's true or not, right? Lin Jifei pursed his lips and didn't speak. Fourth young master, Lin Tianfeng's is Lin based on his of course if he was injured. Of course it would be difficult. His body had long since become an empty shell. Hearing this, Lin Qifei's expression finally changed. Master, there's a letter saying that the Holy Sun's birthday is coming soon. They're asking if we're going to give up on the consort selection because we haven't gone there yet. Chu Luiyue, who was sitting in the room, suddenly paused. She slowly raised her head and looked outside the door. Holy Sun? Birthday? Consort selection? Digression. 6 p.m. Yesterday's update did not refresh. Everyone clear the cache and take a look. There are already a few long comments. Deliberating, there are only a few days left. Chapter 1033. Lin Tianfeng sighed. Sigh, of course we have to go. It's just that Heavenly Cave Cliff only has one level 1 teleportation formation, and it broke down at this critical juncture. That's why we're delayed. If we want to fix it, we'll need 2 more days. You may leave first. I'll personally write a letter to explain the reason behind this. Yes. Hearing this, the guard hurriedly left. Lin Tianfeng stood in the courtyard for a while before turning to return to the house. His brows were tightly knitted. He was clearly worried about this series of events. On the one hand, the Holy Sun's birthday banquet was getting closer and closer. If they delayed any longer, it would not be good. Heavenly Cave Cliff's status was not high to begin with. If they made another mistake at this critical juncture, it would be one disaster after another. On the other hand, he had just learned about Lin Qifei's physical condition, which made him even more upset. He walked in front of the two and looked at Chu Luiwei with a worried expression. Miss Dugu, look, can't you make an exception? As long as you can cure Ji Fei, the Lin family will definitely treat you as an honored guest in the future. Lin Qifei lowered his eyes, his expression indifferent. Whether he lives or dies, it's fate. Father, don't force Miss Dugu, it's not that there's no way. Chu Luiwei suddenly spoke. Lin Tianfeng's eyes lit up. Miss Dugu, please speak. Chu Luiwei smiled and asked in a seemingly casual manner. I just heard that Master Lin seems to be going to the Holy Sun's birthday banquet? Lin Tianfeng paused but did not hide it. That's right. Many people knew about this matter now, so there was nothing that could not be said. Chu Luiwei's expression did not change, but the hands in her sleeves slowly clenched. She asked word by word. May I know the Holy Sun's name? Is it Rongxiu? Miss Dugu, be careful with your words. Lin Tianfeng's eyes suddenly widened, and he subconsciously shouted. How can we call the Holy Sun's name casually? Chu Luiwei's heart sank. As expected, this Holy Sun is indeed Rongxiu. Then, it seems that the birthday banquet and consort selection are all true? Chu Luiwei was silent for a moment, then she suddenly laughed. So, when he said that he had something to do back then, he was talking about these? Patriarch Lin, please don't mind me. I was just asking casually. I didn't mean to offend you. Chu Luiwei leaned against the chair and lightly tapped the armrest with a smile on her lips. However, Dugu Mabao, who was sitting beside her, could clearly feel the cold aura that she was exuding. He raised his eyebrows slightly, and a faint light flashed through his demonic purple eyes. He was to, of course, Lin, as Master used to. So, if Master Lin and fourth young master don't mind, why don't we go together? That way we won't delay our business, and on the other hand, I can keep an eye on fourth young master's health and help him recover as soon as possible. What do you think? Lin Tianfeng thought for a moment and he was a little tempted. That was indeed a good idea. He looked at Chu Luiwei in surprise. Miss Dugu is going there too? That wasn't a place that just anyone could go. Moreover, Dugu was an outsider. It would be even more difficult for her to go. May I know the purpose of Miss Dugu's trip? Lin Tianfeng didn't want to get into trouble. An idea popped up in Chu Luiwei's mind as she suddenly glanced at Dugu Mabao beside her. Dugu Mabao thought to himself, oh no. Chu Luiwei's eyes reddened and she said in a low voice, I'm not afraid of being laughed at, but this time I brought Debao here alone because. Before she could finish, she covered her face with her sleeves and sobbed. Dugu Mabao's eyelids twitched violently. He clenched his little fists tightly. If not for the last bit of rationality in him, he would have exploded on the spot. Lin Tianfeng and Lin Qifei looked at each other and saw that Dugu Mabao's usually expressionless face had a ripple of emotion. Excited? Angry? We were in love, but he said he had something to do and had to leave for a while. But after waiting for a long time he didn't come back, so I thought to bring Debao along to look for him. The father and son looked at each other and understood. So she was here to look for the child's father. I don't know anything about his background. I only heard him say something like, saint, but I don't know anything about his identity. So, if Master Lin and fourth young master can help me this time, Dugu will be very grateful. Chu Luiwei spoke tirelessly. Although it was only a few short sentences, each and every word was filled with sadness and grievance. Anyone who heard it could empathize and be moved. Lin Qifei's eyes rippled. Miss Dugu? What's the surname of the person you're looking for? Perhaps I should call you madam? Chu Luiwei smiled bitterly. The two of you can call me as before. Who knows, if his name is real or fake? Lin Tianfeng stroked his beard. They did occasionally send people to carry out missions outside the Divine Ruins world. Perhaps some soldier had let Dugu down. He didn't want to get involved in such a dispute, but Ji Fei couldn't do without her. After hesitating for a while, Lin Tianfeng said, Miss Dugu, your idea isn't impossible. But there's one thing. I hope that after you reach the place, you can wait for us to finish our business before you consider looking for him. As compensation, we can also send people to help you look for him. How about it? As long as they could attend the birthday banquet smoothly, then look for him in private without making a big deal out of it, it would be fine. Chu Luiwei smiled slowly. Then Debao and I will thank Patriarch Lin and fourth young master here. Don't worry whether we can find him or not, Debao and I won't cause you any trouble. As she spoke, she gave Dugu Mabao a look. Debao, why aren't you thanking her? Dugu Mabao took a deep breath and closed his eyes in despair. Debao? Debao? Chu Luiyue shook his hand. Dugu Ma Bao forced his eyes open, and every word seemed to be squeezed out from between his teeth. Thank you. Although there was something wrong with his complexion, it was fortunate that he was a meaty ball to begin with. Coupled with his cute voice, no one could tell that there was anything wrong with him. Instead, it only made the Lin father and son feel that he was holding a grudge against this irresponsible father. Thinking of this, Lin Qifei sighed softly. It's always hard to be a mother. Chu Luiyue smiled awkwardly. Considering Dugu Ma Bao, whose aura was already frighteningly low, she didn't reply in the end. Then it's settled. For the sake of convenience, when we go there, you will be Ji Fei's personal attendant. Lin Tianfeng said. Otherwise, rashly adding people is not allowed. Chu Luiyue nodded gratefully. Thank you, Patriarch Lin. Thank you, fourth young master. Chapter 1034. After the two sides reached an agreement, Chu Luiyue breathed a sigh of relief. Originally, she wanted to find a backer to deal with Lu Yi, but she didn't expect to get the opportunity to go with them through the level 1 teleportation formation. In this case, the whole thing was meaningless and she didn't have to take Lu Yi's threats and intimidation to heart. Thus, Chu Luiyue began to focus on helping Lin Qifei recuperate. The illness in the fourth young master's body has been delayed for a long time. If you want to completely solve it, you must be ruthless. Unfortunately, his body is very weak now, and he needs to recover for a while before officially starting. Chu Luiyue took a pen from the side and wrote down a prescription. I'll have to trouble the Lin family head to collect the herbs according to this prescription for refining medicine. Lin Tianfeng hurriedly took it. He first glanced at it and recognized that there were indeed many herbs on it that nourished blood and qi, so he nodded. Okay. These things are available in the residence, I'll send someone to get them. Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows slightly. Most of the herbs on the prescription were common herbs, but there were also some very precious and rare heaven and earth treasures. Lin Tianfeng said that they had them in the residence, which showed that they had a deep foundation. In the end, it was a clan of the Divine Ruins world. Patriarch Lin, what I mean is, please go in person, don't let others do it. Chu Luiyue smiled. Seeing that you are familiar with these herbs, it shouldn't be difficult, right? The reason why Lin Tianfeng recognized these things was because he had worried too much about Lin Qifei over the years. He had almost become half a celestial physician. Hearing Chu Luiyue's words, he was a little confused and pointed to himself. It's not difficult. But, why do I have to do it personally? Suddenly, his expression changed. You mean, someone will do something to these herbs? I'm a celestial physician, and the news of me coming to treat the fourth young master has probably spread by now. Although fourth young master was born with this illness, it shouldn't have been this serious. It's obvious that someone did something to it. Chu Luiyue wanted to say something but hesitated. He fixed his gaze on Lin Tianfeng and saw him frown. I don't know anything else. I only know that you treat fourth young master with sincerity. Therefore, it is only safe to take the medicine from you. After Chu Luiyue finished speaking, the room fell into a dead silence. Lin Qifei raised his eyes slightly and gave Chu Luiyue a meaningful look. She was rather smart. She had just arrived at the Lin mansion not long ago and had already deduced so many things after taking his pulse once. I understand. Lin Tianfeng said, then turned and left. Of course, he wasn't worried about what Chu Luiyue would do. That was because other than him, there were many other experts guarding the courtyard. Furthermore, after their conversation, he had developed an indescribable trust towards that woman. This time he could only take a gamble. After Lin Tianfeng left, Chu Luiyue looked at Lin Qifei again. If fourth young master doesn't mind, may I try to treat you first? Lin Qifei didn't say anything but extended his thin and pale wrist. He hesitated for a moment and didn't put on the handkerchief beside him. Chu Luiyue took his pulse and quickly glanced at him. The father and son were very cautious when taking pulses. Clearly they had suffered in this area before. It wasn't hard to imagine how he had spent the past few years with his body in this state. However, these thoughts only flashed through her mind. Chu Luiyue quickly held her breath and focused, then separated a stream of force and injected it into his body. This time she split out a bit more origin power than before. As it flowed through Lin Qifei's Yuan meridian, Chu Luiyue deliberately controlled her own force and hit the thing that was attached to it. Hiss! Lin Qifei cried out in pain, his face instantly pale. Chu Luiyue frowned slightly. Is it very painful? Lin Qifei pursed his lips and shook his head. It's fine, you can continue. Chu Luiyue nodded. Bear with it. Then she tried a second time. This time, Lin Qifei's expression was still enduring, but he didn't make any sound. As for that strange thing, under the impact of this force, it suddenly ran to the side. Chu Liyue's mind moved, and the force instantly transformed into a scarlet flame. It quickly chased after it. A scorching pain instantly spread through his body. Lin Qifei's face instantly flushed red. The veins on his forehead bulged. At this moment, the flame had already filled up the Yuan meridian at an incomparably rapid pace. The raging fire burned. In a daze, Chu Liyue even heard an ear-piercing scream. Soon, the ball-like thing on the Yuan meridian fell off one by one and was burned to ashes by the flame. Ugh! Lin Qifei finally couldn't help but groan. Chu Liyue glanced at him from the corner of her eye and saw that his forehead was covered in sweat and his lips were deathly pale. Only then did she retract the flame. The moment she released her hand, Lin Qifei finally heaved a heavy sigh and collapsed weakly on the chair. It looked as if he had been fished out of the water and was in a very sorry state. Chu Liyue sighed. This was just a simple test, but it had already made him so uncomfortable. It would take a lot of effort to completely cure him. Let's stop here for today. Fourth young master, rest well. This old illness can't be rushed. Lin Qifei nodded. Thank you. Although the pain in his body was unbearable, he did feel a subtle change. This gave him a glimmer of hope in his heart. Perhaps the woman in front of him could really cure him. Fourth young master has helped us before. We are just returning the favor. Fourth young master, you don't have to mind. We won't disturb you for now. With that, Chu Liyue left with Dugu Mabao. After the two figures completely disappeared, Lin Qifei slowly closed his eyes. After a while, a voice came from the side. Fourth young master, do you need us to warn Lu Yi? Lu Yuer would help suppress the things that Lu Yi did, and rarely would it reach Lin Tianfeng's ears. But yesterday Lu Yi sent people to block the level 2 and 3 teleportation formations, intending to lock Du Guiyu and her son in the city. It had already caused quite a ruckus and they just had to ask around to find out. Lin Qifei waved his hand. No need. This time he finally met his nemesis. Let him do as he pleases. Yes. Moreover, the Lu family has taken advantage of our Lin family. We might as well take advantage of this opportunity to get rid of them together. Fourth young master has always been a strategist. This time it's mainly because of Du Guiyu. Lin Qifei smiled. She's also a smart person. Without her help he really wouldn't have this opportunity. More importantly, his body, if he could really recover. With such ability, I don't know what her husband is thinking. Probably blind. Chapter 1035. When Chu Liyue brought Dugu Mabao back to the inn, it was already night time. For the sake of convenience and also to keep it a secret, the two of them booked a room. Chu Liyue wanted to let him have the bed, but Dugu Mabao rejected her outright. According to him, his divine body had already been formed. Even if he did not eat or sleep for a month, there would be no problem. Therefore at night, Chu Liyue took the big bed, and Dugu Mabao stayed on the small couch at the side. The two of them had always been at peace. However, today when Dugu Mabao came back, he flew straight to the small couch and sat cross-legged. Then he stared at Chu Liyue with a cold expression. Chu Liyue had just closed the door when she turned around and saw a purple dumpling emitting cold air. Cough. Chu Liyue looked away guiltily and moved to the side, wanting to put this matter behind her. However, Dugu Mabao did not let her do as she wished. How long do you plan to use this identity? Dugu Mabao asked coldly. Chu Liyue rubbed her temples and smiled awkwardly at him. Debao, look, I have no choice. If not, we don't know how long we'll be trapped here. Moreover, I've never admitted that we're mother and son. Meeting Dugu Mabao's cold gaze, Chu Liyue immediately stopped and changed the topic. Don't worry, when we reach the place and reveal our identities, the truth will be revealed. Actually, she had never taken the initiative to admit that she was Debao's mother, nor did she say that the person she was looking for was Debao's father. She just changed the way she said it, and they automatically made the connection and misunderstood. Alright, Debao, don't be angry, okay? Chu Liyue put her palms together and smiled brightly. Seeing her like this, the remaining anger in Debao's heart quickly dissipated. He turned his face away. There won't be a next time. I knew Debao was the best. Chu Liyue couldn't help but rush over, wanting to rub his chubby little face. Dugu Mabao seemed to have sensed something and turned to look at her. Chu Liyue's hand was just inches away. Her movements suddenly froze. The two of them were silent for a moment. Chu Liyue made up his mind and quickly pinched his cheeks, pulling a big smile on his face. Why are you pulling a long face all the time? It's better to smile more. After saying that, Chu Luiyue hurriedly picked up the shattered pieces of will to live and retreated at an even faster speed. I'm going to cultivate now. As soon as he finished speaking, he had already sat down cross-legged, and a red flame lingered in his palm. Dugu Mabao stared blankly and instinctively reached out to touch the spot where she had just pinched. There seemed to be a trace of warmth left by her fingers. A dark color flashed across his beautiful, almost demonic purple eyes. Although he had changed his physical body, his personality hadn't changed much. She was probably the only one who had the guts and arrogance to say such things to him. She was like that in the past and she was like that now. Dugu Mabao looked at her quietly for a while, and the indifferent coldness in his eyes gradually melted. After a moment, he turned his gaze and looked at the mirror beside him. A strange yet familiar face was reflected in the bronze mirror. His eyes flashed. This face was indeed that of a child, but it was indeed the face of him in the past. He stared at the person in the mirror for a while. The little person in the mirror was also staring at him. Her expression was cold, her eyes were cold, and there was a faint trace of heavy pressure. It looked like it was indeed a little unpleasant. His heart skipped a beat, and he tried to make the corners of his mouth curl up slowly. It was a little stiff. It was very unfamiliar. Dugu Mabao felt uncomfortable in his heart, and for a moment he was a little angry. This smile wasn't good at all, it was completely different from the bright smile on her face. She just asked him to smile more, but who would like such a smile? He pursed his lips and was about to look away, but after hesitating for a while, he couldn't help but look back. After struggling for a long time, he finally pulled the corners of his mouth and changed to a smile. This time was different from the last time. Unfortunately, it looked even weirder. Dugu Mabao resisted the urge to smash the mirror. Just as he was hesitating whether to try again, he suddenly heard a sound behind him. He panicked and hurriedly lifted the blanket, crawled under it and turned his back, pretending to be asleep. Chu Luiyue opened her eyes and saw this scene. She couldn't help but ask curiously, "Debeo, what's wrong?" Dugu Mabao's muffled voice came from under the blanket. "I'm going to sleep, don't disturb me." Chu Luiyue replied with an "oh." Looking at the small bump on the small bed, Chu Luiyue finally couldn't help but remind him softly. "But didn't you say that the divine body doesn't fear the cold and heat, and even if it's sleeping it doesn't need a blanket?" Dugu Mabao fell into a dead silence. After a while, Dugu Mabao finally bit the bullet and lifted the blanket. His short purple hair was messed up and his ears still had a trace of redness that had not faded away. He said fiercely, "Let's go. Looks like you don't want to sleep. Great, I'll practice with you today." The next morning, the morning sun shone into the room. The two of them sat facing each other, and there was a chessboard outlined with silver lines between them. The red dots on the chessboard were Chu Luiyue's chess pieces, and the purple ones were Dugu Mabao's. The battle was fierce. Oh no, it should be said that the red chess pieces were being slaughtered by the purple chess pieces. Dugu Mabao waved his small hand and a purple dot fell. Boom. A purple light suddenly appeared. In an instant, it enveloped the entire chessboard. In the blink of an eye, the red chess pieces were completely destroyed. When all the light gradually dissipated, Dugu Mabao looked at Chu Luiyue. Round 372, I won. Chu Luiyue supported herself on the armrest of the chair, panting heavily. She was sweating profusely, and the force in her body was almost exhausted. She couldn't help but say with a sad face, You won every round. Why are you counting so clearly?" "Of course, it's to let you know how weak you are now," Dugu Mabao said calmly. "However, your improvement is also very obvious. You've made 23 moves in this round, which is much better than the start." Chu Luiyue's mouth twitched. "Thank you for the compliment, but it's not necessary." It was better not to compliment her. 23 moves? She had never been defeated so miserably in the hands of someone before. She rubbed her sore neck and couldn't help but glance at Dugu Mabao. "Speaking of which, Debeo, I didn't expect you to be a Shen master too. What level are you now?" Previously, she only knew that Dugu Mabao's combat strength was very strong, but she didn't know that his cultivation level was so high as well. At the very least, it was the first time she had seen it in her life. Dugu Mabao said straightforwardly, "Now you just need to know that I'm higher than you." Chu Luiyue was speechless. "Let's go. It's time for us to go to the Lin residence." As she spoke, she stood up. At this moment there was a sudden commotion outside. Then the door was suddenly kicked open. "Dugu, get out here." Chapter 1036. Following this angry roar, two figures barged in from outside. Chu Luiyue raised his eyes and looked at the newcomers. They were two burly men dressed in black. Their muscles bulged exaggeratedly, and their faces were fierce and ferocious. Outside the door, the waiter looked at them nervously. He seemed to be worried, but he did not dare to come forward. Chu Luiyue saw this and immediately understood the identity of the newcomers. Lu Yi's men? Chu Luiyue asked coldly. Hey. These little girls had some eyesight. One of the men spoke in a deep voice. When it reached her ears, it was as if her heart was being smashed by something. Both of them were stronger than her. Chu Luiyue quickly judged the situation in front of her. While quietly protecting Dugu Mabao behind her, she quickly circulated the force in her body and sneered. He has already ordered us not to use the teleportation portal at Grotto Heaven Cliff. Isn't that enough? How far does he want to push us before he gives up? You offended someone you shouldn't offend and still want to escape unscathed. How can there be such a good thing? The other man next to him sneered. Our big brother doesn't have that much patience. It turned out that Lu Yi originally thought that after all the teleportation portals were sealed, Duguyu would definitely kowtow and apologize. But he did not expect that after waiting for a day and a night, he did not even see half a shadow. This made him even angrier. Duguyu was different from the others. She was an outsider. It was harder for her to survive here than others. There was no way she didn't know about this. However, even at this point she was still stubbornly holding on without showing any expression. This made Lu Yi feel very embarrassed. After all, the matter had already been blown out of proportion. Many people at Grotto Heaven Cliff knew that he was targeting Duguyu. If he still could not get rid of her after such a long time, where would he put his dignity in the future? Therefore Lu Yi could not take this lying down and directly sent people to the door. Come with us. Chu Luiyue calmed himself down. I'm sorry, but I have something important to do today. Please forgive me for not being able to travel with you. Although her voice was very soft, her tone was very firm and did not allow for rejection. This attitude immediately angered the other party. You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. I'll teach you a good lesson today. Before he finished speaking, a burly man had already rushed over. He punched out. The wind from the fist whistled. In the blink of an eye, it was right in front of him. Chu Luiyue quickly set up a barrier in front of him. Boom. The barrier only lasted for a moment before it began to crack. Taking advantage of this brief moment, Chu Luiyue pulled up his Dugu Mabao and jumped out of the window behind him. The two figures instantly disappeared. Chase. The group of people divided into two groups and attacked from the front and back. Chu Luiyue entered the alley and seemed to realize that something was wrong. Just as he was about to turn around and retreat, the entrance of the alley was already blocked. Where do you think you're going? A few burly men lined up in a row, easily blocking her way. Chu Luiyue's expression changed slightly. Then he quickly looked behind him and saw a few people quickly appearing behind him. They had completely surrounded him in this narrow and quiet alley. The atmosphere fell into a stalemate. The man in the lead looked down at Chu Luiyue. Do you want to leave by yourself, or do you want us to bring you away? Chu Luiyue paused. What if I don't choose? You don't know what's good for you. Seeing that Chu Luiyue was not going to give in, they lost their patience. The man in the lead waved his hand. Take her back. As long as she's still alive. After saying that, the few of them were about to attack when they saw the woman suddenly smile. Her smile was light and bright, and her eyes were like stars. It made her originally very ordinary face look lively and beautiful. Are you guys coming one by one or together? Hearing this, the few men were stunned. Then one of them sneered as if he had heard a joke. You want to fight us? With just you? Chu Luiyue tilted his head. With just me. Chapter 1037. Lu Yi was waiting in his mansion, bored to death. It's been so long, why haven't they come back yet? He glanced at the sky and asked impatiently. A young woman serving next to him hurriedly said, maybe they were delayed by something. It's just catching someone back, what can be delayed? Lu Yi didn't think so. They didn't do their job well, I must teach them a lesson when they come back. The woman saw that he was about to get angry, so she followed his words and said softly, they are your subordinates. What do you want to do, how do you want to deal with them, isn't it just a matter of a word? It's not worth getting angry over this. Hearing her say this, Lu Yi's mood improved a little, and he touched the woman's waist with an evil smile. You are the most obedient, the most pleasing to this young master. Pan smiled gently and shyly, leaning into his arms. Young master, You are someone who will do great things in the future. Isn't it degrading to argue with them? Just the fact that you can go to that place to participate in the Holy Son's birthday banquet, I don't know how many people envy you. Hearing this, Lu Yi, who was still smiling, frowned and pushed her to the ground. Pan cried out in pain and looked up in panic only to see his gloomy face. She asked timidly, Young master, what's wrong with you? Lu Yi swept the tea set on the table next to him to the ground. Don't mention it. Last night, the Lin mansion sent a message, saying that I can't go. Panner's eyes widened. Why is this? Didn't we agree before? Lu Yi sneered and cursed. It's all because of that sick man. He said that he wanted to bring an extra celestial physician to take care of him. The quota at Cave Heaven Cliff is limited, so that old man Lin Tianfeng directly replaced me. In fact, according to his identity and qualifications, he was not qualified to go. Lu Yuer helped him for a long time in the middle, and finally helped him get this opportunity. He didn't expect that when he was about to leave, there would be another accident. The father and son have long disliked me, especially that Lin Qifei. This time he must be the one behind it. Logically speaking, an evil creature who had cursed his own mother to death should have died long ago. Who would have thought that with this delay he would actually survive until now? And Lin Tianfeng just had to treat him the best. If it wasn't for him, my sister wouldn't have stayed in the Lin family for so many years without giving birth to a son. The more Lu Yi spoke, the angrier he got. His chest seemed to be burning with rage. Pan fell to the ground, trembling, not daring to say a word. Lu Yi took a deep breath and suddenly sneered. However, he won't be complacent for long. Young master. Not good. At this moment, a panicked voice suddenly came from outside the courtyard. A pale-faced manservant ran over and knelt down in front of Lu Yi, pointing outside. Young master. Bad news. Outside the door, Lu Yi kicked him. Speak properly. The manservant felt a dull pain in his chest, but he didn't dare to make a sound. Young master, they are back. They are now at the door, outside the door. You should go and see for yourself. Lu Yi finally realized that something was wrong and immediately lifted his foot to walk outside. When he walked straight all the way to the gate, he saw a few boxes placed outside the door at a glance. The boxes were unlocked and seemed to have been opened by someone. At the edge he could vaguely see some blood stains. As for the guards who were in charge of guarding the door, they were all standing to the side in fear. It was as if there was something terrifying in the box. Lu Yi's heart sank. Open the box, he ordered in a deep voice. The guards looked at each other and finally stepped forward together and carefully opened the box. Patter. The box was opened. When he saw what was inside, Lu Yi's pupils shrank. The people inside were none other than the few people he had sent out. Taking a closer look, there were exactly 8 of them. At this time they were all covered in blood and stuffed into the box in a strange posture. It was a ghastly sight. Young master, they are not dead yet, but, one of the guards braced himself and said, but, their tendons have been cut off. I'm afraid they will be crippled in the future. This was even crueler and more ruthless than directly killing someone. Death would be the end of everything and people like them would be crippled from now on. That would only make them suffer more pain and torture. Lu Yi's face was ashen and he could not believe it. It went without saying how they got injured. It must be that Dugiyu who did it. He clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles almost cracked. Dugiyu, you are courting death. When Chu Luiyue arrived at the gate of the Lin mansion, a guard greeted her with a smile. Miss Duga, you are finally here. Master and 4th young master have been waiting for you for a long time. Chu Luiyue smiled faintly. There was a little trouble on the way, so I was delayed for a while. It's fine. Please come in. With that, the guard quickly led Chu Luiyue and Dugu Mabao into the mansion. After a smooth journey, they finally arrived at Lin Qifei's courtyard. As soon as they entered, Lin Tianfeng and Lin Qifei both looked over. Lin Tianfeng hurriedly said, Miss Dugu, the herbs are all prepared and they are all here. See if there is anything missing. Chu Luiyue walked over with a smile. Master Lin personally prepared the herbs, so there will naturally be no problem. Next, let's start refining. Lin Tianfeng hurriedly nodded. Lin Qifei's nose twitched as he sniffed. He looked up at Chu Luiyue. What a strong smell of blood. Digression. It's the end of the month, don't forget to vote. We will continue at 6 p.m. Chapter 1038. Chu Luiyue seemed to sense something. She looked up at him and smiled. 4th young master, what's wrong? Looking at that pair of clear eyes, Lin Jifei withdrew his line of sight and shook his head gently. Nothing. I'll have to trouble Miss Dugu for my condition. Chu Luiyue smiled deeply. Fourth young master, you're welcome. She walked over to check Lin Jifei's pulse. Before I go in to refine pills, I'd like to check on fourth young master's condition. Lin Jifei stretched out his hand. His sleeve, embroidered with bamboo leaves, was pulled up slightly, revealing a slender, white wrist. One could even see the veins on it. Chu Luiyue raised her hand. Lin Tianfeng suddenly handed over a handkerchief and was about to put it on his wrist. Lin Jifei raised his eyes and glanced at him. He said indifferently, "Thank you, father. But since I've already agreed to Miss Dugu's help, there's no need for this." Lin Tianfeng was stunned. Surprise flashed across his eyes. You said, no need? But didn't he hate being touched the most? Because there was once someone who pretended to be a celestial physician and took advantage of the opportunity to take his pulse. Lin Jifei had been very cautious in this regard ever since. But now, he actually trusted Dugu so much? Lin Tianfeng was puzzled. But seeing his calm expression, he didn't continue and put away the handkerchief. Okay then please continue, Miss Dugu. Chu Luiyue didn't seem to notice the confrontation between father and son. She smiled faintly and stretched out her hand to check his pulse. Compared to yesterday, Lin Jifei's aura was clearly stronger. Although it couldn't be compared to a normal person, it was much better than his initial condition. Chu Luiyue nodded and injected a stream of force into his body. Then she followed the same procedure as yesterday and did it again. Lin Jifei's expression was one of forbearance. Throughout the entire process he did not let out a single cry of pain. However, his complexion became even paler, and many fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. He looked very miserable. Lin Tianfeng, who was watching from the side, was scared witless. So, this is how Dugu treats Jifei? Yesterday he had left early and didn't see it. Today when he suddenly saw it, his heart almost jumped out of his throat. There were even a few times when Lin Tianfeng's heart ached too much. If it weren't for Jifei's constant signals to calm him down, he would have opened his mouth to shout for them to stop. This time, Chu Luiyue helped him clean up some of the strange things that had accumulated in his yuan meridian. To her, this was also a huge drain. When it was over, she let out a long sigh. All right. I'll go refine medicine first. Fourth young master, you can rest and recuperate for now. Lin Jifei saw that she looked a little tired, so he asked, what's wrong? Miss Dugu, you also seem to need a good rest. I've been sick for many years, so a little more won't make a difference. Why don't we wait for Miss Dugu to recover before continuing? Lin Tianfeng expressed his agreement. That's right. Although I'm not a celestial physician, I know that celestial physicians often expend a lot of energy when refining pills. Miss Dugu, you see, thank you for your concern, Patriarch Lin and Fourth Princess. I know what I'm doing and won't do anything rash. Chu Luiyue stood up and smiled. More than anyone else, I hope that this pill refinement will succeed on the first try. Naturally, I will make preparations. The two of you don't need to worry. However, there's one thing. This pill refinement will take about a day and a night. I hope Patriarch Lin can help protect me. If it were someone else, they most likely wouldn't have the guts to directly ask Lin Tianfeng to protect them. Generally speaking, only the most powerful 9th-grade celestial physician in the clan could ask Lin Tianfeng for help. But in the face of Chu Luiyue's bold proposal, Lin Tianfeng agreed without hesitation. No problem. As long as she could take care of Jifei in the end, this was nothing. I've already ordered someone to arrange a room for Miss Dugu to use for pill refinement. It's not far from here. Also, I wonder if Miss Dugu still needs something like a medicinal cauldron? Lin Tianfeng asked tentatively. Our Lin family happens to have a collection of medicinal cauldrons that are very useful for pill refinement. Miss Dugu, thank you for your kindness, Patriarch Lin. But I have my own medicinal cauldron, so I don't need to borrow yours. Chu Luiyue declined with a smile. Lin Tianfeng was slightly disappointed. Then, all right. Dugu was an outsider, so her medicinal cauldron shouldn't be any better. He had wanted to provide her with a better medicinal cauldron so that she could refine pills more smoothly, but he didn't expect her to be so uninterested. However, Lin Tianfeng knew that most celestial physicians were a little arrogant. Since she had said so, there was no need to persuade her anymore. Then Chu Luiyue took the medicinal herbs to the room specially set aside for her pill refinement. At the door, Lin Tianfeng looked at Dugu Mabao and asked, Miss Dugu, since you want to focus on pill refinement, why don't we take care of this child for the time being? Dugu Mabao frowned. Chu Luiyue hurriedly said, Thank you, Patriarch Lin, but this child is afraid of strangers. Let him go in with me. Lin Tianfeng found it a little strange. Wouldn't such a small child be a hindrance if he went in? But it just so happens that Debao is preparing to start learning celestial physician. It's not a problem to let him follow along. Chu Luiyue added. Lin Tianfeng choked. If he wanted to learn from his mother, there was nothing for outsiders to say. At this time Lin Zhifei, who was next to him, also opened his mouth. Since Miss Dugu insists, then, let's do it. Chu Luiyue was relieved. She bowed to the two of them, turned around and walked in with Dugu Mabao. After the two of them disappeared, Lin Tianfeng looked at Lin Zhifei and sighed. Zhifei, you seem to have a lot of trust in them. Lin Zhifei glanced at the tightly shut doors and windows, and a slight ripple appeared in the depths of his clear eyes. She's just a pitiful girl with a child alone. Lin Tianfeng felt suffocated in his heart. He knew that Zhifei was like this because he thought of him when he saw them. Actually, what happened to your mother back then really had nothing to do with you. Besides, it's been so long. Zhifei, you don't have to take it to heart. Lin Tianfeng said with some hesitation. Besides, you didn't have a child all these years because of you. Are you still unwilling to let go of your prejudice against her? Hearing this, Lin Zhifei's indifferent and calm expression finally showed a trace of fluctuation. His pale lips curled up slightly as he looked at Lin Tianfeng, a faint smile appearing on his face. The sunlight shone on his face, making him look like a piece of glass that was both bright and fragile. Whatever father says, it's what it is. You, Lin Tianfeng choked and was about to say something when he heard a slightly nervous and urgent female voice. Master. Not good. Chapter 1039. It was Lu Yuer's voice. Lin Tianfeng looked up and saw Lu Yu hurrying in from outside the courtyard, her face full of anxiety. When she reached the courtyard gate, she was stopped by a servant, as expected. Mistress, please wait. Lu Yuer's already anxious mood worsened when she was stopped. She was the mistress of the Lin family, but she didn't even have the right to enter this small courtyard. She hadn't been able to take a single step in all these years. Because Lin Zhifei lived here. The entire Lin family couldn't enter at will. Even Lin Tianfeng had to send someone to notify them. However, the other members of the Lin family had more or less entered, but she hadn't been allowed even once. Everyone in the Lin family knew that Lin Zhifei didn't like her as a stepmother. Even if she had become the mistress of the Lin family, he still didn't care about her. But no matter how much hatred she felt, Lu Yu wouldn't show it in front of these people. So she stood obediently outside the door and looked inside with a face full of anxiety. Soon Lin Tianfeng came over. What's wrong? What's the hurry? Lin Tianfeng pulled Lu Yu aside as he walked. Lu Yuer's heart felt stifled again, but she didn't show it. She only grabbed Lin Tianfeng's arm anxiously with tears in her eyes. Master, Yu rarely asks you for anything, but this time Yu really has no other choice, she cried pitifully, and Lin Tianfeng's heart ached for her. Don't cry. What's going on? I'll definitely help you. Only then did Lu Yuer wipe away her tears and say intermittently, It's about Lu Yi. A trace of impatience flashed across Lin Tianfeng's face when he heard this name. He's really been bullied this time. Lu Yu complained tearfully. Lin Tianfeng said indifferently, he has always been the one bullying others. When has anyone ever been able to bully him? Lu Yuer knew that he never liked Lu Yi, so when Lu Yi made trouble, she tried her best to suppress it and not let it spread here. But it was different this time. Master, you don't know, but several of Lu Yi's subordinates were beaten half to death this time. Their tendons were also cut off. They were stuffed into boxes and sent to Lu Yi's door. If this wasn't a threat, then what was it? Lin Tianfeng's expression changed slightly. Really? There were probably not many people in the entire Heavenly Cave Cliff who would dare to do such a thing. Why would Yuer lie to you? He came just now and his clothes were stained with blood. Lu Yuer's eyes flashed with resentment. She really hated the people who treated Lu Yi like this behind his back. So this time she came to complain tearfully. Things had turned out like this. If she couldn't help Lu Yi, then in the future, many people in Dongtian Cliff would ridicule and abuse him. Lin Tianfeng frowned. Do you know who the person is? Lu Yuer was stunned for a moment and hurriedly said, This? I didn't have time to ask. But the person who dares to do this in Dongtian Cliff must not be a simple person. In Yuer's opinion this time, maybe it's because of the Lin family, maybe? Although Lu Yi was not a member of the Lin family, who didn't know his relationship with the Lin family. Daring to be so ruthless to him, They obviously didn't put the Lin family in their eyes. Wasn't acting wildly in the Lin family's territory a provocation to the Lin family? Lin Tianfeng frowned when he heard this. Master, why don't you let Lu Yi come over now and talk to you personally? Lu Yuer asked tentatively. Lin Tianfeng pondered for a moment, looked back and shook his head. Not today. Why? I have something to do today. Tell him to come back tomorrow. Although Lu Yi's matter was not small, it was not as important as Jifei's elixir. Duguyu asked him to help protect her, so he must not go back on his words. Otherwise, if something went wrong, who could bear the responsibility? Hearing Lin Tianfeng's words, Lu Yuer almost guessed something. She couldn't help but take a look inside. You're busy with Jifei's matter? Lin Tianfeng didn't hear anything wrong in her voice and just nodded. You go back first, just wait for a day. Tomorrow at this time bring Lu Yi over. With that, he turned around and planned to go in. Master, Lu Yuer shouted unwillingly. Lin Tianfeng glanced at her and pondered for a moment. Why don't you send someone to investigate first and see what's going on? I'll deal with this matter tomorrow. After saying that, he ignored Lu Yuer and walked straight in. Lu Yuer looked at his back gradually disappearing and slowly clenched her fists. Her delicately manicured nails dug deep into her palms, stinging. She suddenly woke up, took a deep breath and turned to leave. What? He won't see me? Hearing Lu Yuer's words, Lu Yi suddenly jumped out of his chair. I've already been bullied to the point of being on top of my head. How can he still be so indifferent? Even if he doesn't do it for me, he has to consider the Lin family's reputation? What are you shouting for? Lu Yuer was also very irritated and reprimanded. You're not his son, he naturally won't care about you. In the past 2 days, a celestial physician came and said that she could cure Lin Qifei's illness. Of course he's nervous. Lu Yi couldn't help but sneer. It's been so long, how many celestial physicians have come? He still hasn't given up, ha. That Lin Qifei is just waiting for death. Maybe this time on the way there, Lu Yuer gave him a warning glare. Although this is my residence, it's still the Lin family. Watch your words. If you have the time, why don't you tell me in detail who's so bold to do these things? Lu Yi was a little guilty. In the end, he wanted to rob the other party first. Lu Yuer had reminded him several times before not to be so blatant. If she knew, I'm not sure now, the other party didn't leave any clues? He lowered his eyes and said vaguely. Lu Yuer was very irritated. It's useless. Then let's wait first. It would be much easier to wait for the Lin family to investigate. Although Lu Yi was sullen, he didn't dare to say anything more and could only agree. Inside the room, Chu Luiyue first set up a barrier around the room. After making sure that the aura and fluctuations here wouldn't spread outside, he summoned the heavenly square cauldron. Are you really going to use this thing? Dugu Mabao saw the transparent cauldron and his eyes flashed slightly. This is my biggest reliance at the moment. Chu Luiyue shrugged. Otherwise, I'm not confident that I can refine the pill in one try. Dugu Mabao pondered for a moment. You're really willing to be able to get the pill refined by Chu Luiyue with the heavenly square cauldron? Lin Qifei was also very lucky. Chu Luiyue curled his lips. It's not a loss to use this pill in exchange for the opportunity to attend the birthday banquet of His Highness Saint. Digression, Rong Xiu, my wife seems to be scolding me. February, get rid of the seams. Rong Xiu? Chapter 1040. Dugu Mabao acutely sensed a faint, terrifying aura. He did not continue the topic. This woman was terrifying when she went crazy. Let Rong Xiu bear the consequences himself. Whoever made a mistake should bear the consequences. Whoever hid the truth should bear the consequences. As Chu Luiyue counted the herbs and lined them up, she glanced at Dugu Mabao in a seemingly unintentional manner and asked in a seemingly smiling manner, "Don't you think so, Debao?" Dugu Mabao nodded reluctantly. Boom. A ball of red flames suddenly burned in the heavenly square cauldron. Dugu Mabao's eyes twitched. But at least the name is real. Chu Luiyue controlled the flames in the heavenly square cauldron with one hand. She waved her other hand and threw a red fist-sized 10,000 fragrance immortal fruit into the cauldron. The dancing red flames swarmed forward and devoured it completely. Soon, the 10,000 fragrance immortal fruit was refined into a ball of light red powder. A faint, sweet and slightly bitter aroma filled the air. Otherwise, it would be impossible to find it in this vast world. Chu Luiyue smiled faintly and said slowly as if she was teasing him. The dancing flames reflected in her eyes, making it hard to fathom. Dugu Mabao suddenly regretted following her in. Waiting outside didn't seem like a bad idea. Debao, you said that I lost my memory. Why does the whole world know except for me? Chu Luiyue asked lazily as she threw the second herb into the cauldron. It was a cocklebur root as thick as an arm. The red flames in the heavenly square cauldron split into two and wrapped around it tightly. Then it quickly tightened and burned crazily. Following a series of ear-piercing crackling sounds, the green and tender skin of the cocklebur root quickly dried up. The bright red juice inside also started to drip down. Dugu Mabao looked at the tightly shut door and the barrier that was glowing faintly. He fell silent. If he didn't use his origin power, he wouldn't be able to open the barrier and leave. Debao, why aren't you saying anything? Chu Luiyue raised his eyebrows slightly and glanced at him. Dugu Mabao changed his sitting position and turned his face away. You will eventually know what you need to know. Fine, it was as good as not saying anything. Chu Luiyue pursed his lips slightly, but he didn't care too much. She did not expect to get anything out of Dugu Mabao. If he was willing to speak, he would have done so a long time ago. Why wait until now? However, this also made her even more certain that he had long known about Rong Xiu's identity as the Holy Sun. But until now they still refused to tell her. Forget it. Anyway, he was about to go, so he could just ask directly when the time came. Thinking of this, Chu Luiyue waved his hand. The dozens of medicinal herbs on the side all fell into the heavenly square cauldron. She held her breath and focused her attention, beginning to put all her thoughts on refining medicine. The room was silent. Lin Qifei waited outside the door for a while, but he didn't hear any movement inside. He understood that she must have set up a barrier inside to isolate everything. When he first met her, he didn't think much of her. This woman looked ordinary, but she was bold and meticulous. He didn't know who her master was for her eyes to be so sharp. If she didn't have that child with her talent, she should be able to create a world of her own in the world of God very quickly. Lin Tianfeng returned quickly. Lin Qifei wanted to leave immediately, but he was stopped. Looking at him. Jifei, the elders have already done according to the method you gave them. That teleportation array should be repaired soon. This time it's all thanks to you. Lin Qifei smiled faintly, but his eyes were still cold and distant. I just gave some suggestions. The repair of the teleportation array depended on the combined efforts of the elders. It has nothing to do with me. Father, don't take it to heart. You, Lin Tianfeng sighed. I know that you don't want people to know that it was you who did it, so I never told them. You have been very low-key all these years, and this is not the first time something like this has happened. But you are still the blood of the Lin family. The Dugu you can really cure you this time, the Lin family. That's all in the future and we don't know yet. Father, don't mention it. I'm a little tired, so I'll take my leave. With that, Lin Qifei left without waiting for Lin Tianfeng's reply. Lin Tianfeng couldn't help but sigh when that figure disappeared. So many people wanted to fight for the position of the head of the Lin family, but he wasn't interested at all. He knew that a large part of the reason was that Lin Qifei was worried about his own health. But this time, Lin Tianfeng turned around to take a look. Now all his hopes were placed on that woman. Time flew by. When Chu Luiyue finally finished refining all the herbs, the moon was already high in the sky. Inside the heavenly square cauldron, all the herbs were separated from each other, looking colorful. All kinds of scents mixed together, forming a unique medicinal fragrance. Although it wasn't the first time Chu Luiyue used the heavenly square cauldron, she couldn't help but sigh. A cauldron that could directly refine such a pure medicinal effect was really hard to find even if one searched the entire world. This also made her more confident of success. Now that the herbs had been refined, the next step was to form the pill. Chu Luiyue made up her mind. Then, she controlled the flame and gradually fused the herbs together. At this moment, the bottom of the heavenly square cauldron suddenly emitted a buzzing sound. Digression. Seeing that the monthly votes seemed to have overtaken one place, I angrily added one more chapter. In addition, there are already 36 competitors for the star of the monthly votes. The first batch is already on their way. Chapter 1041. Chu Luiyue was shocked and immediately looked over. She saw that at the bottom of the heavenly square cauldron, the two Tian babies had gathered together and were circling each other. And that buzzing sound was the result of the mutual influence between their powers. An invisible ripple rapidly spread out. Chu Luiyue was shocked and slammed her hand on the heavenly square cauldron. The transparent karmic fire burned brightly. Stop. Flames began to rise. Like a sprite jumping. It quickly intercepted that wave of energy. Buzz, the remaining power hit the inner wall of the heavenly square cauldron and made a loud roar. Half of Chu Liyue's arm was numb, but she didn't dare to let go. Her palm was still tightly attached to the heavenly square cauldron and she continued to inject force into it. She controlled the transparent karmic fire and completely suppressed it. After a while, the waves finally calmed down. Looking at the two Tian babies that had calmed down and were quietly staying in the flames at the bottom of the heavenly square cauldron, Chu Liyue let out a long breath. Almost, if her reaction was a little slower or if she didn't have enough strength, then the two Tian babies would have already broken free. At this moment, Chu Liyue was very glad that she had broken through to become a rank 7 warrior and had devoured the rich power left behind by the northern underworld Taizu. Otherwise, she really couldn't deal with this situation. This thing is so cunning. Chu Liyue came back to her senses and stared at the seemingly innocent Tian baby with a frown. Just now, she had clearly sensed that this thing wanted to take the opportunity to escape. You are refining pills, and most of your energy and attention is placed elsewhere, so your control of the karmic fire is naturally reduced. It's normal that the Tian baby would choose to try to escape at this time. Compared to Chu Liyue's nervousness and fear, Dugu Mabao, who was sitting next to her, was much calmer. When you are stronger and have complete control of it, there won't be this trouble. Chu Liyue's brows twitched. Then, what level do I have to reach? Dugu Mabao glanced at her. Naturally, it's a level that can forge a divine body. Chu Liyue. Pretend I didn't ask. Dugu Mabao narrowed his eyes. Did this girl think that a Tian baby was an ordinary item? Although the heavenly square cauldron can help you suppress it, you still have to rely on your own strength to completely subdue it. Chu Liyue sighed. I know. I just find it a little troublesome. Dugu Mabao's eyes twitched. There were countless experts in the world who wanted to obtain this item but were unable to do so. She had 2 of them, but she actually found it troublesome. You really don't know how lucky you are. If that's the case, then every time I use the heavenly square cauldron to refine medicine, this Tian baby might come out and cause trouble? She relaxed her expression and said, the celestial physician inside is refining pills, and Master is helping to protect him. When this pill is completed, it might be able to cure 4th young Master's illness. Louis sneered. What celestial physician? How many celestial physician has Lin Qifei seen over the years? Even the chief celestial physician of the Lin family, the first elder, can't do anything. That's a genuine 9th grade celestial physician. What can the others do? He vaguely heard that this celestial physician was found by himself. If she really had the ability, why would she do this? Don't talk so much. Lu Yue reminded him. You'd better think about what to say to old Master when you see him later. Louis choked and only then did he stop. At this moment, a wave of energy suddenly came from the courtyard. Buzz. A crisp and melodious sound of collision was heard. Very quickly, a strong medicinal fragrance also spread out. Lu Yue took a deep breath. She felt refreshed and comfortable all over. Immediately, her eyes widened in shock. How can this be a 7th grade pill? This wave, this smell, it's definitely not something a 7th grade pill can have. In the courtyard, Lin Tianfeng was also at a loss. Creak. The door opened. A slender and tall figure walked out from within. Lin Tianfeng hurriedly stepped forward. Chu Liyue's face was a little pale, and there were faint dark circles under her eyes, but there was a satisfied smile at the corner of her mouth. Patriarch Lin, fortunately, I didn't disappoint. As she spoke, she handed over a jade box. A crimson medicinal pill was quietly lying within. 8 lines could be seen clearly. Lin Tianfeng sucked in a cold breath. An 8th grade pill? You will need to continue to treat it and the process will be more difficult. I hope that 4th young master will be more forgiving. Lin Jifei took the elixir, his thin lips slightly hooked. If I can exchange it for my life, then this pain is nothing. However, this time, I owe you a favor. Although Dugu Yu said that her help was to repay him for helping her in the gate realm of the divine ruins. However, it was just a small matter for him while she was doing him a great favor. Although she had her own considerations, but, to him, those were not important. The important thing was that she had still helped him a great deal. Chu Liyue smiled. 4th young master is too polite. She had no relatives in the divine ruins. If she could establish a relationship with the Lin family, it would undoubtedly be much more convenient. In particular, Lin Qifei was much more powerful than he appeared to be. If she could make him owe her a favor, there would be no disadvantages. At this moment, the servant came forward and said carefully, "Patriarch, mistress has been waiting outside with young Master Lu for a while. You see, previously he didn't dare to come over to report. Now that he saw that Chu Luiyue had finished refining the pill, he came over to ask for instructions." When Lin Tianfeng heard that Lu Yi had also come, he subconsciously frowned and glanced at Lin Qifei. However, Lin Qifei didn't seem to care. "Father, if you have something to do, just do it." Lin Tianfeng wanted to say something but stopped. He originally wanted to wait for Lin Qifei to use this pill and see the effect before leaving. But he didn't expect Lu Yue and the others to come so early. Then I'll go and take a look first and then, he paused and looked at Chu Luiyue. "After that, I'll have to trouble Miss Dugu to take care of Jifei's body." Chu Luiyue nodded gently. "Patriarch Lin, don't worry." Only then did Lin Tianfeng feel relieved and leave. "Fourth young master, I'll accompany you in. After taking this pill there may be some reactions. It'll be easier for me to deal with it by your side," Chu Luiyue said. The previous 2 days were all small fries. Now this medicinal pill was the real main event. Whether Lin Qifei's body could withstand it or not was another matter. Since she agreed to help, of course she would take responsibility. However, when Lin Qifei heard this, he suddenly smiled. "No hurry." There was a slight ripple in his clear and distant eyes. "It won't be too late to use the pill after Miss Dugu's problem is solved." Chu Liyue's heart skipped a beat and she looked up at him. The two's eyes met and undercurrents surged. After a moment, Chu Liyue raised her eyebrows and smiled. Then, "Thank you, fourth young master." On the other side, Lin Tianfeng had already walked out of the courtyard and saw Lu Yue and her brother waiting by the side. Looking at the two of them, it seemed that they had been here for a long time. Before Lin Tianfeng spoke, Lu Yue had already stepped forward and asked with a concerned face, "Master, is the pill done? Is there a cure for Jifei's illness?" Hearing her concern for Lin Qifei, Lin Tianfeng was comforted and the coldness on his face gradually melted. He nodded. "It's done. But as for the specific effects, we still need to see the follow-up." Although Duguyu looked very powerful, he didn't dare to boast before trying the pill. What if he was disappointed in the end? That's good, that's good. Lu Yue patted her chest gently and looked relieved. Seeing this, Lin Tianfeng thought that he had been impatient with her for the past 2 days because he had only cared about Jifei. He felt a little guilty and looked at Lu Yi. "Your sister said that your men were beaten up yesterday. What happened?" Since he was willing to ask, it meant that he was willing to use the Lin family's power to help. Lu Yi nodded quickly and said, "That's right. My 8 subordinates were all beaten unconscious yesterday, stuffed into boxes and sent to my door. Furthermore, the tendons in their arms and legs had been severed. Brother-in-law, the weakest of my men is a rank 8 warrior. But they were harmed just like that. You must uphold justice for me." Lin Tianfeng frowned. "Then do you know who the person behind the scenes is?" Lu Yi was not afraid of Lu Yue reprimanding him at this time. Since it had already come to this, he directly said, "It's an outsider. Her name is Duguyu. It's her. She crippled 8 of my men. Brother-in-law, she dared to do this to me. She clearly doesn't put you and the Lin family in her eyes. You must not let her go." Chapter 1043. When Lu Yi said the word outsider, Lu Yue knew something was wrong and secretly glared at him. No wonder he didn't want to say it before, it turned out to be such a disaster. Needless to say, it must be that he went to find trouble with the other party first, and finally forced the other party to kill him. That led to today's situation. She had warned him not to be so presumptuous, but he didn't change. Now he even dared to hide it from her and only told the truth in front of Lin Tianfeng. Lu Yue scolded him in her heart, but in the end he was her brother. Now there was no other way. If she didn't help him, what else could she do? However, just as she was thinking about how to help Lu Yi, she heard a familiar name. "Duguyu?" Lu Yue's eyes widened in shock, and she looked at Lu Yi in disbelief. "Who did you just say?" Lu Yi glanced at her. "Duguyu? That's her name. I've already sent someone to check." Lu Yue's heart trembled violently, and with the last glimmer of hope, she asked in a trembling voice, "Then, what does she look like?" Please don't be. She looks ordinary, but she has a purple-haired and purple-eyed child, so it's easy to recognize her. As long as brother-in-law is willing to help, we'll find her soon." Lu Yue's eyes darkened, her legs went soft, and she almost fell to the ground. "It's actually that Duguyu." Lu Yi was talking well, but seeing her like this, he quickly went to help her. "Sister, why are you?" Lu Yue pushed him away. Her face was filled with suppressed anger. Are you done? Louis was even more confused. What's wrong? Wasn't she talking well just now? Why is she so angry in the blink of an eye? He quickly glanced at Lin Tianfeng, but saw that his expression was also very strange. Louis realized that something seemed to be wrong, and his originally proud momentum was suppressed, and his heart was a little nervous. How? You want to find Duguyu? Lin Tianfeng suddenly asked. Louis nodded subconsciously. That woman is very cunning. If you can help. Before he could finish, a crisp female voice suddenly sounded. There's no need to trouble Patriarch Lin with such a small matter. When Louis heard this voice, he faintly felt that it was somewhat familiar and subconsciously looked up. A woman was slowly walking out of the courtyard. Her appearance was ordinary, her eyes were like stars, and the corners of her mouth held a hint of a smile. Unexpectedly, she also had a noble charm. Beside her, there was a cute, purple-haired, purple-eyed child following closely behind her. After seeing the scene in front of him, Louis suddenly widened his eyes in shock and raised his hand to point at the approaching woman. You, I'm right here. Why does young Master Lu have to waste time looking for me? Chu Luiyue walked over with Dugu Mabao and stopped 5 steps away from them. Louis almost couldn't believe his eyes. He couldn't help but shout in shock and anger. Why are you here? Why can't I be here? Chu Luiyue blinked. Could it be that this is also your territory? Louis choked and hurriedly glanced at Lin Tianfeng. What nonsense are you talking about? Since it's not, then what does it have to do with you that I'm here? Chu Luiyue asked slowly. Louis's eyes wandered back and forth between them. He couldn't help but say, You killed my people and you still have the nerve to ask this? You're such a venomous woman. You're ruthless. Tell me. You're here to harm people, aren't you? Yes, that must be it. Louis shouted unwaveringly. You're just a lowly outsider. You actually want to rebel in this cave heaven cliff? Chu Luiyue looked at him in a seemingly smiling manner as if she were looking at an idiot. Young Master Lu, why don't I understand what you're saying? I harmed your subordinates. Why would I harm them for no reason? Of course it's because they went. Halfway through his words, Louis realized that something was wrong and suddenly shut his mouth. If he really said it out loud, then he was the one who was in the wrong. Lin Tianfeng didn't like him very much. After knowing the ins and outs of the matter, he definitely wouldn't intervene in this matter. How would I know why you would do such a thing to them? It's just that you're too vicious. 8 people and you didn't let any of them go. You, young Master Lu, did I hear wrong? You mean, I alone beat up 8 of them? And I even won? Chu Luiyue chuckled as if she had heard a joke. You think too highly of me, don't you? Louis was half dead with anger. They're still in my residence. Do you dare to confront them? That's not necessary. Chu Luiyue's smile faded slightly. That scene must not be very good. I'm not interested. As soon as these words came out, Lin Tianfeng and Lu Yue also looked at Chu Luiyue. These words, you admit it? Louis took a step forward. His face was full of anger. His face was red and his eyes were burning with anger. Chu Luiyue tucked the stray hair on her cheek behind her ear and smiled. Since young Master Lu thinks that I did it, then I did it. But so what? So what? In Heavenly Cave Cliff, Lu Yi hadn't seen such an arrogant person for many years. He was so angry that he laughed. Duguyu, don't tell me you don't know who is standing next to you now? You've done such a thing and you want to pretend that nothing happened? Lin Tianfeng was the head of the Lin family, and also the cliff master of Heavenly Cave Cliff. And Lu Yue was his sister, and also the matriarch of the Lin family. She hurt her own people and she dared to admit it in front of these people? She was really tired of living. However, Chu Luiyue didn't seem to care about his threat. She tilted her head, crossed her arms, touched her chin and looked at Lin Tianfeng. She asked innocently, Head of the Lin family, are you going to punish me? Lin Tianfeng choked. At this moment, a light voice came from behind. Miss Dugu. Several people turned their heads in unison. Lin Qifei was standing in front of the courtyard door. He was tall and slender and his eyes were distant. I don't know how to use this medicine. Can I trouble you to help me take a look? Digression, are you demons? When I woke up, I moved up another place. I have to continue at 6 p.m. Don't ask. If you ask, you'll have to update. Chapter 1044. Lin Qifei's appearance broke the stalemate. Lin Tianfeng came back to his senses and looked at Chu Luiyue with a complicated expression. Miss Dugu, you go and help Ji-Fei first. Chu Luiyue smiled faintly. Then Master Lu. I will take care of things here. Miss Dugu, you don't have to worry. Lin Qianfeng's voice was not loud, but there was a trace of dignity in his tone that could not be disobeyed. Thank you very much, Master Lin. Upon hearing this, Chu Luiyue smiled and decisively turned around to leave. Lu Yi's heart skipped a beat. Is he not going to pursue Duguyu's fault? Brother-in-law, she injured 8 of my men. How can I just let it go like this? Lu Yi said as he was about to chase after her. Lin Tianfeng frowned. Lu Yue knew that something bad was going to happen. She quickly stretched out her hand and pulled Lu Yi back. She warned him, Lu Yi, Miss Dugu is Ji-Fei's celestial physician. She has a heavy responsibility on her shoulders. You can't mess around anymore. Hearing this, Lu Yi finally understood why things were so wrong. He gasped and asked in disbelief. Sister, what did you say? Dugu, she is the celestial physician who took the initiative to treat Lin Ji-Fei 2 days ago? Of course it's her. Isn't it clear enough? Lu Yi was stunned. How is this possible? When he met that woman 2 days ago, she was just an outsider with no identity or background. How long had it been she had become Lin Ji-Fei's celestial physician? So she was the attendant who would go with the Lin family to the saint's birthday banquet. The sudden truth made Lu Yi's mind go blank. Although he was reckless and impudent, he was not completely brainless. If it was any other celestial physician, it would be fine, but now, she was Lin Ji-Fei's celestial physician. And from the looks of it, Lin Tianfeng seemed to trust and protect her. Even Lin Ji-Fei spoke up for her, which was a rare occurrence. Lu Yi knew very well that although he seemed to be lawless at Grotto Heaven Cliff, he was actually relying on the protection of the Lin family. Whether it was Lin Tianfeng or Lin Ji-Fei, they were definitely not people he should publicly offend. After Chu Luiyue left, Lin Tianfeng looked at the two of them. He quietly broke away from Lu Yuer's arm. Lu Yuer's heart sank. She hated herself for not asking clearly before. She had actually caused such a big commotion in front of Lin Tianfeng. You already knew about this? Lin Tianfeng asked calmly. I don't know. Lu Yuer immediately denied with tears in her eyes. I asked him before, but he refused to tell me. He said he had to see Master and ask for justice before he would tell me. Who knew? If she knew, why would she bring Lu Yi here? Lin Tianfeng turned a blind eye to her, crying. Of course she didn't know, otherwise she wouldn't have done such a thing. Lin Tianfeng didn't pay much attention to Lu Yuer. Instead he looked at Lu Yi. Lu Yi trembled. You just said that Dugu injured all 8 of your men? Lin Tianfeng asked. Lu Yi nervously swallowed and nodded. Lin Tianfeng stared at him. That's good. Tell me, how did you send those 8 men to deal with her? Thank you for your help, 4th princess. Walking into the room, Chu Luiyue directly thanked him. Lin Ji-Fei sat down, his expression still indifferent. It's just a small matter, no need to mention it. Chu Luiyue raised an eyebrow. She had been in the Lin mansion for 2 days, so she more or less understood Lin Ji-Fei's character and the Lin family's situation. Lin Ji-Fei's words seemed simple, but it showed everyone that he was on her side. So, the balance in Lin Tianfeng's heart was naturally on her side. It would be difficult for Lu Yi to make trouble again. You saved me a lot of trouble. Chu Luiyue said. Lin Ji-Fei smiled and took out the pill. Can we start now? Chu Luiyue's expression was slightly serious, and she nodded slightly. Under Chu Luiyue's gaze, Lin Ji-Fei took out the pill and swallowed it. The pill melted as soon as it entered his mouth, and in an instant, it turned into a hot stream of air and flowed down. In an instant, it filled his entire trachea and quickly spread to his organs. In a short while, Lin Ji-Fei's face and body had turned red. Dense stabbing pain came from all parts of his body. It was as if there were ants gnawing on his yuan meridian. The numbing pain was unending. Smack. Lin Ji-Fei directly swept the things on the table next to him to the ground. Draw the force out of the pill of origin and circulate it in a small cycle. Chu Luiyue shouted in a low voice. Lin Ji-Fei gritted his teeth, closed his eyes, and began to forcefully circulate the force in his body. An even more bone-piercing pain came from his body. Almost all of his yuan meridian was deposited with this strange substance, and at this moment, the pill's effect had turned into a hot stream of air that poured into his yuan meridian, almost completely occupying it. So, when he began to circulate the force in his body, it meant that he had to control the force to pass through this fiery hot stream of air. In this process, his force would inevitably come into contact with the already fragile yuan meridian. It was also because of this that he felt extreme pain. This feeling was as if countless sharp blades that had been roasted by fire were scraping off his yuan meridian. Soon, a trail of blood flowed out from the corner of Lin Qifei's mouth. However, this trail of blood was black. Chu Liyue's gaze focused. Lin Qifei's illness had dragged on for too long, and it was impossible for him to completely recover in one go. However, if he wanted to improve, he had to be bold and decisive. So, he had to suffer this pain. To Lin Qifei, this was probably the most difficult time in his life. Every minute and every second was long and painful. His strength seemed to have been exhausted, and his entire body was in so much pain that it was almost numb. However, whenever his mind started to become muddled because of this, there would always be a clear and bright voice that would sound. The force is already halfway through. Fourth young master, continue. The 5 treasures have already passed and it will be over soon. There is only one step left to complete a small cycle. This voice made him wake up time and time again. Even he himself did not know how he had endured it. In the middle, he vaguely felt as if there was a warm stream of energy pouring into his body, allowing him to recover much of his strength. He wanted to open his eyes, but it was too painful and too tiring. Moreover, he was constantly urged to continue. He knew who was speaking. So, he gritted his teeth time and time again, struggling with all his might to endure it. After an unknown period of time, he finally could not hold it in any longer, and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Chu Liyue immediately looked over. In the pool of black blood there was a bead. This was it. Chu Liyue waved his wrist, and a flame quickly flew out, instantly enveloping that bead. Chapter 1045. Bang. A crisp sound was heard. The bead was trying to escape, but it was stopped by Chu Liyue's barrier. It fell to the ground again, mixed in with the messy blood stains. If one did not look carefully, it would be hard to notice. Chu Liyue waved his finger and a blazing flame flew out instantly. It formed a fist-sized ball, completely trapping the bead inside. Then the fireball floated up lightly and landed in Chu Liyue's palm. Chu Liyue carefully examined the bead inside. It was only the size of a soybean, and because it was covered in blood stains, he could not see its exact appearance. However, Chu Liyue could clearly feel that it contained a shocking amount of energy. And this thing was the main culprit that caused Lin Qifei's serious illness. Cough. Cough cough. Lin Qifei coughed violently. Chu Liyue turned around to take a look. Fourth young master, how do you feel now? Lin Qifei coughed for a while before straightening his back. His face had turned from its initial blood-red color to extremely pale. Only the blood stains at the corner of his mouth and chin made him look even more haggard. However, his eyes looked much more spirited than before. I'm fine. Lin Qifei waved his hand and looked at her palm as he spoke. When he saw the strange bead that was trapped by the fireball, his expression changed slightly. What is this? Fourth young master should be very familiar with this thing. After all, it has been in your body for decades. Chu Liyue's words made Lin Qifei's eyes widen in shock. You mean? That's right. It's its existence that caused the strange changes in your yuan meridian. Chu Liyue glanced at the bead, narrowed his eyes dangerously and laughed softly. This thing seems to be able to devour the yuan meridian, causing a deficiency in one's qi and blood. Fortunately, fourth young master has a high-grade Daijing yuan meridian, or else, you might not even be able to hold on. Lin Qifei frowned. What is this? Chu Liyue shook his head. I don't know. However, when he took her pulse earlier, he vaguely guessed that there was such a thing. At that time, I wanted to get rid of it directly, but it was very strange and agile. It created countless clones in your yuan meridian and I couldn't capture it immediately. So, the most important thing in the pill you helped me refine just now is actually your own force. Lin Qifei asked. Chu Liyue laughed and admitted frankly. Fourth young master is indeed smart. Actually, she had injected a stream of her flame into the pill. The greatest use of those medicinal herbs was to cushion the power of the flame she had left behind. If Lin Qifei's illness could be cured with just a level 8 pill, then the celestial physician of the Lin family would have done it long ago. How would it be her turn to do it? She had purposely asked Lin Tianfeng to get the herbs and let him guard her personally. In fact, it was all just a gimmick. No one knew that using the pill to save his life was a lie, but injecting the flame to force the bead out was real. This was also why she had been urging Lin Qifei to circulate his force. Only when both sides were pressuring each other could the thing have no way out. A look of understanding flashed across Lin Qifei's eyes, but at the same time, a trace of doubt appeared. Miss Dugu came to visit me earlier. Could it be that she already knew that she could use this method to help me? His voice was still a little weak, but this question was very important. Chu Luiyue blinked. Fourth young master, are you suspecting me? Of course not. Lin Qifei immediately denied. I'm just a little curious, how on earth was she so sure that she could do it without even taking his pulse? Chu Luiyue smiled but didn't say anything. She couldn't possibly say that she was so confident because she knew that the power of the water bead in her body was too strong, could she? Seeing her reaction, Lin Qifei immediately said, "Of course, if Miss Dugu can't say it, then I won't ask again." He could vaguely guess that there was an extraordinary power hidden in the body of the girl in front of him. It was normal that she didn't want to say it. Chu Luiyue rather admired Lin Qifei's tact. It was always easier to deal with smart people. Since this thing has been removed, then the rest is a small problem. There's still a part of it in your Yuan meridian. We can slowly deal with it later. As long as you take good care of yourself, fourth young master will recover very quickly. Lin Qifei looked at the girl in front of him with a relaxed expression and listened to her speak slowly. For a moment he felt a little dazed. He couldn't help but clench his hands. Just like that? Yes. Chu Luiyue sized up his expression. It was rare for him to show such a blank and weak expression, so much so that others could see through his thoughts. Although it sounds simple, this series of things still requires quite a bit of effort to carry out. However, I will be by your side for a period of time, so fourth young master doesn't need to worry. Just rest well. Lin Qifei nodded subconsciously. Thank you. Actually, I just feel that everything happened too suddenly. All these years he had always thought that he didn't have long to live, so he was indifferent to everything. This time, when he returned from the outside world, he was already prepared to die. Who knew? He stared at the bead. Suddenly, he thought of something and asked in a soft voice. He asked softly, "So you're saying that this illness wasn't born with me?" Chu Luiyue pondered for a moment. "If I'm not wrong, this bead should have entered your body not long after you were born. It lay dormant for many years and unknowingly dragged you to your current state. However," she raised her eyes slightly and paused. "This is definitely not an illness that came from the mother's womb." Lin Qifei lowered his head slightly. His pale and thin face looked especially haggard and lonely at this moment. After a long time he finally let out a long sigh. So that's how it is. He had always thought that it was his fault that caused his mother's tragedy, but he didn't expect. The incomparably heavy stone that had been pressing down on his heart for many years suddenly seemed to have been removed, allowing him to relax. This was premeditated by someone in the dark. But soon his face darkened again. If it wasn't him, then it must be someone else who had secretly planned all of this. Mother's death and his illness. I wonder if Miss Dugu can tell the origin of this bead? He raised his eyes and asked. Hearing this, Chu Luiyue looked at the bead again. At this time, the flames had already burned away the blood on it. This was a completely black bead and there didn't seem to be anything special about it. Suddenly Chu Luiyue's eyes focused. There seems to be a picture on it. No. This seems to be a totem. Digression. It's the end of the month. Don't forget to vote if you have tickets. Next update about 7 o'clock. This month's star of the monthly votes. There are already 40 competitors for the monthly votes, but there are still no clear competitors in Book City. Are all the people in Book City so Buddhist? Please join the verification group as soon as possible if you want to get first place in the monthly votes or the recommendation votes. The first place will be sent out personally in February. The same goes for the comment star. The list will be announced in early September. Chapter 1046. Totem? Lin Qifei's expression froze. Chu Luiyue handed the bead over to him for him to see. On the gloomy black bead, there was indeed an extremely small pattern that reflected a faint glow. However, this pattern was very small. If one didn't look carefully, it was really difficult to notice. This is a totem, right? Chu Luiyue asked tentatively. She didn't have this feeling before, but ever since she came to the Divine Ruins world, Dugu Mabao had told her that these numerous sects and clans all had their own totems. And she had also seen the Lin family's totem on the light screen at the border of the Divine Ruins world. So the moment she saw this pattern, she had this guess. It was an indescribable intuition. That's right. This is indeed the totem of a certain clan. Lin Qifei nodded affirmatively. It's just that. I can't tell which clan it is for the time being. The Divine Ruins world was vast and there were countless clans and sections. It was impossible to recognize the totems of each clan. Although he was the fourth young master of the Lin family and had a noble status in Heavenly Cave Cliff, It was limited to Heavenly Cave Cliff. After going out, there would be many terrifying existences like Heavenly Cave Cliff, or even stronger than them. It was really difficult to find out the origin of this totem in a short time. Chu Liwei pondered for a moment. I wonder if Patriarch Lin can deny it after seeing it? He was experienced and knowledgeable, so he might know a thing or two. Lin Qifei suddenly said. Miss Dugu, please don't keep this bead a secret for the time being. Chu Liwei looked at him with slight surprise. When she saw his sincere and pleading expression, her heart skipped a beat. She didn't ask any more questions and nodded. Okay. It seemed that Lin Qifei didn't even trust Lin Tianfeng, or rather he was certain that there was something wrong with the people around Lin Tianfeng. Moreover, although this bead was small, once the investigation began and old accounts were dug up, who knew how many people in the Lin family would be implicated? It was normal for Lin Qifei to be so cautious. Then, I'll keep this thing with me for now? Chu Liwei asked. Lin Qifei nodded in agreement. Sorry to trouble you, Miss Dugu? Chu Liwei shook his head. It's just a small matter. After experiencing all kinds of trouble caused by the Tutian baby, it was really easy to deal with this kind of little thing. Lin Qifei's lips moved as if he wanted to say something. There was a totem on the bead, and it was very likely that it would bring about unknown trouble. Most people would try their best to avoid getting involved with these people. Who would have thought that she would actually be willing to help like this? Then that's all for today. Have a good rest, fourth young master. Debao and I will take our leave first. With that, Chu Liwei bowed and left with Debao. Wait. Seeing that the two of them were about to leave, Lin Qifei suddenly shouted. Chu Liwei turned around curiously. Fourth young master, is there anything else? Lin Qifei paused. If nothing unexpected happens, that first-class teleportation array will be repaired tomorrow. Therefore, our departure time should be tomorrow. Chu Liwei was delighted. That's great. She was worried that it would keep delaying. If they could go there earlier, they should still be able to make it in time. Lin Qifei looked at the woman in front of him. When she heard the news, her eyebrows and eyes became lively. There seemed to be waves of light surging in her jade-like pupils, and also like stars twinkling. The curvature of his lips was definitely not fake. She should want to go there earlier, right? Lin Qifei's lips also curved slightly, revealing a very faint smile. Originally, he didn't care about these things, but it would be good if he could help her a little. Then we'll go back and pack first? Chu Liwei smiled and said goodbye. Lin Qifei nodded. Chu Liwei then left with Debao. After the two of them disappeared from sight, Lin Qifei slowly sat back in his chair. He closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing. After he recovered some strength, he stood up and said, Water, prepare some water. I'll take a bath and change clothes. The smell of blood on his body was already stinging his temples faintly. The servant waiting outside the door heard and hurried in. When he saw Lin Qifei's face and body covered in messy blood, he was shocked. Young master, it's fine, just go and prepare. Lin Qifei waved his hand. The servant saw that although he was in a sorry state, his spirit seemed to be much stronger than before. His previous decadence was swept away. He was also delighted and hurriedly responded. Yes. The servant's movements were very nimble, and it didn't take long for everything to be ready. Young master, please. Lin Qifei walked into the inner room. The servant followed beside him and couldn't help but say, Young master, your body, has it recovered? Lin Qifei paused for a moment. It's better than before. The servant exclaimed. That's great. I didn't expect Miss Dugu to be so amazing. Although her current level was not as high as the 9th grade celestial doctor of the Lin family, she was the most capable person to be able to cure the young master's illness. I didn't expect an outsider to be so outstanding. Lin Qifei heard this and smiled faintly. There's no difference between the inner and outer worlds. In the end, it depends on the person. Even if she was unknown now, in time she would definitely make a name for herself in the world of divine ruins. Young master is right. The servant couldn't help but say as he waited on Lin Qifei. Actually, there's one thing I don't understand. Young master, this Miss Dugu is already so outstanding, why would she still go and look for that heartless man? Wouldn't she be making herself suffer for nothing? Lin Qifei thought back to her bright smile and fell into deep thought. Probably. After all, a night together as husband and wife means endless devotion for the rest of your life. Digression. Add more tomorrow? Start waving your banknotes. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.